morning, everybody. It's the Cryptid Huntress. I'm Jessica Jones, and gosh, I am so glad to be here tonight. I'm so glad you guys are here tonight. Yes, I'm supposed to be out in the woods with my team right now, one of my teams, and I'm really glad that I'm home here in the warmth of my house. And so shout out to everybody who's in the woods tonight at an undisclosed location. I hope y'all are keeping warm out there and having some fun looking for Bigfoot and whatever else is out there in those woods. Well, I have another Bigfoot researcher here in the studio tonight. You guys, I am so excited to welcome to my channel and this show for the very first time, Mr. Alan Thomas of Squatch Zone tonight. We have so much to talk about, and I know that he's friends with a lot of my friends, a lot of people I know, and I've been contacted by quite a few of my research buddies over the past couple of days, few days actually, giving me some suggestions on what to ask him tonight and stuff. It's really great because he's got a lot of experience going back to at least the 1980s with Bigfoot. So you guys, and it's not just Bigfoot. I don't know if he's like me. We've experienced a lot of weird stuff out in the woods. Okay, so we're going to talk about all that tonight, and he is here in the studio at this moment. So let's see. I wanted to thank real quick, Candy, I got your card today. Y'all check out this Christmas card. It's a Dogman Santa Claus, y'all. It's amazing. Thank you, Candy. I don't know if Candy's in the chat tonight. I just wanted to thank you so much for that card. And I want to say Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everybody who's watching tonight. And I hope y'all have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas. We have one more show before Christmas. That's going to be on Monday. We have my research buddy, David Pardue out of North Carolina coming on. And he has condensed some of the video that he took of an actual, what we believe to be as an alien in the woods in North Carolina. I've shown still shots of that before, but we have an actual clip of the video. We're going to show the audience on Monday, plus more. There's a lot more, but we're going to show, if you guys want to see a real life alien, maybe a little person, I don't know, I think it's an alien, come watch our show on Monday live. Okay. I'm so excited. It's going to be great. Okay. Well, if you guys would like to follow along with my archives and stuff, please go to my website. That's thecryptidhuntress.com. You can find my calendar of events there and all my information, whatever you need. And also I do have a Patreon if you guys would like to support my work. And we have a shop. It's called War Woman Goods. Shout out to everybody who bought from me over the holidays. I love you guys so much. And also be sure to go to relicsbooks.com for our friend John Vendeventer, who is undergoing some chemotherapy right now. And we love John. We want to support him throughout the holidays and always. So y'all go check out his book series as well. And come see me at the East Alabama Bigfoot Town Hall coming up on January the 18th. It's going to be awesome. And the Georgia Bigfoot Conference coming up in March. And I got other ones too. It's on the ticker down there. Y'all check it out. Go to my website. We don't have much time to waste because I need to go talk to my friend, my new friend, Alan Thomas tonight. Okay. Oh, and shout out to Dennis Carroll. I got your Christmas package today too. Thank you so much. Y'all, everybody's been so generous over this holiday. It's been wild. Thank you, Dennis. I appreciate you very much. All right, let's do it. Okay, so Alan Thomas saw his first Bigfoot in 1987, and that encounter changed his life in the woods forever. He co-hosted Paranormal Central for over 10 years and was featured on Finding Bigfoot and Monsters and Mysteries. For a couple of years, he was on Art Bell's Dark Matter Network, and his show was broadcasted right before Art Bell's show. Alan started his YouTube channel, Squatch Zone, in 2012, where he interviewed hundreds of people who encountered Bigfoots, UFOs, alien abductions, dogmen, and pterodactyls, and probably more. Alan just celebrated his 47th year anniversary. Happy anniversary, Alan. With his high school sweetheart. He has 6 kids, 26 grandkids, and 2 great-grandchildren. He's a retired marketing director in the casino industry. And you guys just need to know that Bigfoot changed his life forever. I hope for the better. And please help me welcome to the show, Mr. Alan Thomas.
Hi, Jessica.
Hey, Alan.
Let me adjust my camera a little bit. It's like cutting my head off. There we go.
Well, we don't want it to cut your head off. You look great.
Thank you.
You look great. thank you for being here. And it's so nice to meet you. I've heard so much about you, and I have seen your shows. Okay.
The same. I've heard a lot
Yeah.
about you as well. And we do have a lot of the same friends. You're right.
We do. Well, we have a lot in common too. We have a lot in common. We are really into Bigfoot and all things mysterious in this world. And but you're one of the, I'm going to call you an OG. Okay. And I was actually planning, I kept thinking in my head, like, you're like one of the OGs of the Bigfoot community, especially when it comes to doing shows on it. And somebody, I think it was Sovereign Cosmic Wildman in the chat, I'd noticed that he said something about you being an OG. Okay. An original giant is what he said. So
I always wonder what that meant.
It's original gangsta. That's what that actually means. Okay. It's a good thing.
I'm closer to that.
Your original gangster
part. Yeah.
Yeah. Me too. But so you have interviewed probably way more people than I ever have on their encounters with Bigfoot and other things, but you got into this back in the 1980s, and I want to hear about what happened to you to get you involved in the Bigfoot world.
Well, I wasn't asking for it, and I wasn't looking for it. My dad had passed away the year before in 1986, and his best friend they went deer hunting, camping. I grew up like in a playpen in the woods. And I mean, I grew up in the woods. They taught me everything, how to track, we hunted everything. Well, after he passed away, my dad's best friend, which is like my dad, right? He tells me he's going for 14 days up to the area. His son couldn't go, that I grew up with. We were the same age, but his son couldn't make it. And he asked if I could do it and fill in for my dad, because this will be the first time in 60 years or something that they weren't together. And we did. And on our 9th day, there was a lot of hunting pressure that day, that week. It was the last week of deer season, and there was only like, I think, 8 more days or something like that. And we had made a plan. There was so much pressure in the area we were at, road hunters, all this stuff, people running around. And back then, camo wasn't a thing, but it was starting to. And people were running around in different camo outfits. And back then, it was kind of goofy, corny looking. Not like today where they're all really camoed. So it was goofy. And so we thought, let's get away from all these goofballs, and we're going to go into the wilderness. We're going to drive as far as we can on this road that dead ends in the wilderness. And then there's a trail that you could take and go over the top of the Sierras. Now, this is right outside of Yosemite National Park, outside the boundary, right outside of it, on towards the southeast side of Yosemite. And that's where I grew up. And I had lots of stuff happen to me over the years that I couldn't explain. And I never knew what it was, but you just, you rationalize it away. And then, well, we're sitting there. And this year was the first year that I had drawn a bear tag. Now, I've been on the hunts. We've got bear and deer, and everyone else, we get a bear tag. I never got one. And this year I got one. And because of that, I brought a Weatherby 300 Magnum that I bought just for the bears, right? And big animals. Well, we did that, and we decided we're going to park before the sun comes up. And right when it's just light enough to see without a flashlight, we're going to go over the hill. On the other side of the ridge, there's these high mountain lakes, real beautiful, pristine. You can't drive to it. It's 3-mile hike. So we're going to go there, pick a really nice place, sit down, and then if we don't get a deer, we'll come back in the night. That following, we'll wait. We'll be there all day, and then at night we'll leave and hike back over. And we're sitting there waiting for the sun to come up, and it's probably about an hour and 50 minutes or so before the sun will actually rise. And we had probably 20 minutes before we could actually leave. So we're sitting there, and the sky was lighter. You couldn't see the ground at all, but you could see the top of the ridge against the sky. And I seen a bush moving, and I could see a back and a butt. And I got all excited. I'm telling him, there's a bear. I'm going to get a bear. I'm really going to get a bear. You know, I really was excited. I started loading my rifle, and then the bear stood up, and it was a man. It was like,
Man,
what is that dude doing up there? You know, like, where did he come from? He didn't have anything in his hands, no gun, no light. It looked like he was wearing a big old giant puffy coat, like those coats you see in Alaska where they're all puffed up. It looked like that. Couldn't tell colors because it was too dark. And we're both, you know, we're talking to each other about what's this guy doing up there? How did he get by us? We had camped at the beginning of that road for 9 days. Nobody had drove by us. So like, how did the guy get there? And what's he doing? And then he started walking down the hill towards us. And he would take like 5 steps, and then he would freeze for 5 or 10 minutes without movement at all. And we're like, what is he doing? Looked like how we stock up on deer. That's how we stock up. You take a few steps and stop and don't move, and the deer can look right at you and they can't see you. So that's what it looked like he was doing. And he stalked all the way down. And the sun, you know, it's starting to get brighter. So now we should have already took off walking, but we're going to have a talk with this guy because we realized he was dressed in black. We're like, what an idiot. There is bazillion hunters up here. If we were like new or, you know, fresh first time hunters, I probably would have shot him when I seen him, the bush moving, right? Thinking it was a bear, I would have shot him. But because I had been hunted, and I know you don't shoot anything until you know what it is, and it wasn't time to shoot yet. I still had 20 or 30 minutes. But as he got closer, we realized he wasn't a man. I realized that. Now my dad's best friend, he knew what it was. And he didn't tell me. He was going along with me on my realization of what I'm seeing. Well, finally, this thing gets like 30 yards away, and I watched it walk all the way down the mountain. The sun, as he stops, and he's looking off to my left, and he's towards my left, looking to the left, and he's doing his frozen stand there for 5 minutes again thing. And the sun just peeked over the hill and lit him up. And he was pure black, like a black lab. His fur was even shiny like a black lab. He looked clean. He didn't have really long fur. Around his eyes right here was like a dark reddish brown, like in the shape of a diving mask. But I couldn't see his face real good, but I could see his body. He was ripped. I mean, he was huge. And I was thinking he was like a basketball player at first when he was way up there. But now I know he's not a basketball player, but I know he's extra tall and really buff, like, oh my God, like Arnold Schwarzenegger type buff, only bigger than him by at least twice, right? Huge. And I asked him, where's the binoculars? I want to see its face really good. And he's like in the camper. And now we're in a huge cab over camper, a huge one. And I thought he was coming to talk to us at first, because you can't miss a big giant camper. I know he could see it, but I didn't realize that he couldn't see through the windshield. He couldn't see us. The sky had reflected on the windshield. I found out later as I was tracking him, and I kept looking back at the truck, and all I could see was the sky in the windshield. And I realized he couldn't see us. But when I banged around trying to move the rifle around to look through the scope, he heard that, and then he took off running, and he ran like a ninja, like when you're watching those kung fu movies, he didn't bounce or anything. He kind of like glided across the ground, but in super, like the Flash Gordon type fast, like Superman, right? Running like really fast. And he was swinging his arms, running just like us, but he wasn't bouncing around. He was like gliding like a ninja. And I actually call them now, or started calling them, forest ninjas, because of how they are. As I tracked him, he went behind this big giant pine tree, and he disappeared behind the pine tree. That's the other ninja part, right? And I tracked him all the way behind the tree, and then he went back up the mountain. And when I turned around to look back at the truck, as I had been doing to make sure that this guy, my friend, could see me, I realized I can't see the truck. After I went behind the pine tree, I couldn't see the truck. And as I tracked and I kept looking back, I couldn't see the truck. He knew that he could put that giant pine tree between us and go run away from us, and we wouldn't see where he went or anything. And I thought, oh my God, he's smart, you know? And I'm standing next to this brush that I just watched him walk all the way down the mountain. Sometimes he was like behind the brush, sometimes he was in front of the brush. So I could see all of him, but I also seen how tall he was to the brush that I'm looking at. The brush was 3 feet over my head, where as high as I could reach was the top of the brush. When I watched him walk through that brush, that was his belly button level.
No.
And his tracks, as I was tracking him, were 12 to 15 feet apart in his running. And it didn't make sense to me that it was that big. But after I saw where his belly button was, I was like, oh my God, he's huge. Like wow, you know. And I turned around and ran back to the truck. I didn't go camping again for 6 years. I didn't go to the mountains. I didn't go camping. I have not been deer hunting or hunting of any game besides them. When I went back to hunting or going to the mountains, that's what I was looking for, those guys, because I know they're there, right? I knew it. And my friend, my dad's best friend, we were talking about it one day at a family gathering, and I brought that up, and he told me, I don't even know what this guy's crazy. And he actually like got mad at me because I talked about it in front of everybody. So he held to his word that he would not admit that they were there, even though he had seen them. Now that was his 6th Bigfoot that he saw, and blew me away that somebody could be like that. And then I thought, I grew up running around. At 5 years old was the first time I got lost. I never got lost again because that scared me so bad. I paid attention where I would go. Mm-hmm. But I had so many things happen to me that were them, and I know it was them, and I think everybody should know about it. So I started talking about it right away and telling people and tracking them and bringing it out, because people have to know. I even had a teacher in the books 411, mm-hmm. David Paulides. We interviewed him like 3 times. And one of his books, his first book, my teacher was in the book Missing 411. And he went missing 7 miles away from where I saw the Bigfoot. And I feel like that they took him. And I don't think they're all nice and all that as everybody talks about. I think they are nefarious. I think you're on the menu. If the timing's right and they could get away with it, I think you're on the menu. And so I want everybody to know that when you're out there, stay aware. Now I'm finding they're all over the place. I thought they were only up there, Oregon, you know, Northern California. Now I'm finding they're everywhere, absolutely everywhere.
I mean, Alan, they're here in the South for sure, because we have a ton of them up in the North Georgia mountains, just alone. They're all over the place. That's that's a lot. That's what I talk about a lot, are the missing 411 cases and our national parks. And you actually had a teacher that went missing. And I'd heard that someone, I don't know if it was Brown Dwarf who's in the chat tonight. Brown might have told me about that. Yeah, Mr. BD himself, he's in here. Matter of fact, he's one of my moderators. I love me some Brown Dwarf. But I was aware that you had a teacher that went missing. Now, it was so close to where you had that encounter. You do have suspicions that it could have been Sasquatch related. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah. Only because, like I said, I retired from the casino industry, and I'm talking about Indian gaming or Native American gaming casinos. And my wife is quarter Cherokee, and I'm quarter Cherokee, but she grew up in Oklahoma and on the reservation, and her grandpa is like some kind of a famous Cherokee named Cecil Dick. So I have all these connections to the tribes, and I learned all about the little people in Oklahoma and the Sioux Kaloo and all these things. Over here in this side, they actually had a war with the Bigfoot because it was eating babies. And so that just went right along with what I think, that they're nefarious and not good. Because they actually had a war lasting 40 some odd years where hundreds of people died and only 50 something Bigfoots died. And they finally, what was really weird about it is they made a peace treaty with the Bigfoot, and the Bigfoot agreed that they would not come and take their babies if they said they would stay out of a certain area. And it was a pretty big area. It was Sequoia National Park, Kings Canyon National Park, and all the way down into the valley, the foothills. Well, I hooked up with Jeffrey Gonzalez and some other guys, and we created a team, and we found a family in this area, in that area. And one day I was talking to one of my tribal friends and telling him, we got DNA off this Bigfoot. He's like, where at, man? When I told him, he's like, you can't go there. Don't go there. You'll break the treaty. I mean, he was really adamant, I don't go in there. And then I was like, why, man, And then he told me about the war. He told me, well, I knew about the war, but he told me the treaty area, that was the treaty area. That's where the Bigfoot would go. If they didn't go in there, they wouldn't come out and eat their babies. So they had held to this treaty all these years, 200 and some odd years. They held to that treaty. And so that made it even more, I wanted to go to that area. You know what I mean? And I had I had trees pushed over, 3 trees in 30 minutes pushed over in the same place, and they were trying to get us out of there. I mean, all kinds of stuff happening in that area, but hopefully they're not eating babies because I do that.
Oh my gosh, I hope not too. Now, I've actually talked about the Bigfoot war, the human Bigfoot war out, I think it was in Oklahoma, but you're talking about the one in California too. So there's different ones. Yeah,
the Oklahoma ones, those were, I can't remember the tribe, but they were fighting them. Yeah, and they were giants, and they would rip these Indians apart. But they finally did the same thing. They made a truce with them. And I guess you can't really win against the Bigfoots, like
well,
Indians, rocks and rocks and arrows and all that. That ain't nothing to these guys.
Yeah, I was about to say, unless you got some good firepower, okay,
right?
And some of that kind of stuff, some weaponry, which is really scary. But traditionally, legend has it that women and children have often been targeted by Sasquatch and taken. So that lines right up with that. And it's very similar to the Bigfoot war out in California is very similar to the one in Oklahoma. Something that I have noticed, and I'm really into making connections and connecting the dots with all of my research and all of the interviews that I've done, all the investigations that I've done, connecting these dots. And Yeah, it's territorial. Okay, territorial is a word that comes up a lot. And as long as you don't cross, it's almost like they have their own line. And I know that my teams have been out in the woods and we have encountered alpha, like the guys like to call them alpha Bigfoots, the alphas that get off my lawn,
Right.
like get out of here. I've never been screamed out of an area before, but some of the guys on my team have. And paralleled tracked until
Yeah.
they got out of there. Nobody's ever been hurt though on any of my teams by a Bigfoot. I've had rocks thrown at me before that landed
Yeah.
at my feet, but I've never been hurt.
Well, I think they know. Like they know who they can take. Like I get a lot of people tell me Bigfoots aren't bad. There's nobody coming back saying they're being attacked. No, but I've been roared out of a place. I've had rocks thrown at me, but I've also interviewed people that have people missing, where a little kid will just go behind the tree to take a leak, and then he don't come out, and then they can't find him. The dogs can't pick up a track, all kinds of stuff like that. I think they're so opportunistic and they know what they could get away with. If you're by yourself, like my teacher, and you get out there and they decide they're hungry, he went missing. The fighter wing that he was a colonel with the fighter wing. When he was my teacher, he was the captain. And we used to go flying all the time, looking with search and rescue, flying in his airplane. So he was really a good friend. Besides being my teacher, he was a good friend. They actually looked for him for months. The whole fighter wing, they would fly over the area. 30 or 40 guys would go out there looking for him, using all the technology. They could not find him, not even a trace of him. All they found was his car and a camera bag, and that's it. Everything else was gone. So people can say whatever they want. If they're attacking you, there is nobody going to come back and tell a story. Right? Nobody's going to come back. They're probably not going to find hardly anything of them. But David Paulides, he talks about, and he won't admit that it's Bigfoot. I mean, I tried to get him to a couple times, admit that maybe it's Bigfoot, but they'll find kids' clothes that disappeared. They'll be disappeared like 2 miles away in a camping area. It'll cross, the clothes will have crossed a major river that's really ripping at this time of the year, all the way up a boulder field on the top of a mountain, and they'll find the shoes and the pants folded up on the top of the mountain. And sometimes they'll find bones broke up in little pieces where it sucked the marrow out of the bones. So like, what did that? Like, and that little kid did not cross that river on his own, right? Like there's no way even an adult couldn't cross that river. But something like those guys can.
Yeah, there's just too many anomalies with all these missing people. And this is really something that I hit on a lot, are the missing persons reports and the potential connection to Bigfoot and cryptids. Okay, and I don't think the Bigfoot's taking all these missing people. I don't think Dogman's attacking.
No, not all of them. Some of them are alien abductions and stuff. Some of them get lost and they just fall off a ravine and nobody found them. We interviewed a lady or a ranger. She retired out of the Yosemite National Park, and she was one of the ones at the gate that would pay. You pay to get into the park. And she told us that every day as she was letting people into the park, she was wondering which one wasn't going to go home or come out. They would just disappear. In Yosemite Park, hundreds of thousands of people go missing and they never find them. Never. And she was saying they wondered every day who it was that they were letting in wasn't going to go home or come out, or they would never find. That's so interesting.
Oh my gosh. So she just sit there and kind of be like, okay, I hope they come out. They may not. I don't know. I mean, she was kind of stereotyping people probably. She knew the MO, it sounds like. That's terrible.
People from all around the world go there. I grew up there, And there was all kinds of people that drowned. There's people that I watched one guy in a red jacket go off the Yosemite Falls at the top, and I seen the jacket go in the water. I'm like, oh no, and then I seen the jacket coming in and out of the waterfall as it went down. It was like, whoa, that dude's probably dead. I was only like 8 years old, but I watched some guy go over, and I know a lot of what happens there could be falling, and you fall in a crevice and nobody ever finds you. But hundreds of thousands of people, it could be aliens, it could be Bigfoot, it could be a lot of different things up there.
Yeah, it could. It could. I've actually done some shows on the fog in it's not, I think it was in Yellowstone, not Yosemite, but it was out at Yellowstone. My friend Barry came on the show with me, and we talked about the potential of, Gugway, Sasquatch, Dogman, even hiding in the fog and taking people as well. And so I think there's just a lot of different modes of ways of people to be taken. Even, I know this may sound weird to a lot of people, not anybody on my channel though, portals.
Yeah. When I was a kid, now my parents and they never told me about Bigfoot, but you know what they warned me about as a little kid and all the way through as your teens? If you ever see a stairway in the middle of the woods, don't get on it, right? They would tell me, run from it. That's the worst thing to tell me. Because if I never saw one, but if I would have, I would have climbed that thing, but they always warn me, you will disappear. You will go up the stairway and disappear. And they would try to scare us with that. Don't get on the stairway, And I would have, but I never saw one. But that's the only thing they warned me about. They didn't warn me about bobcats or mountain lions or bears. They taught me what to do if you encounter that. Like a bear, you don't run, you walk backwards. A cat, same thing. You walk backwards, you make loud noise, the bear will run away usually. The cat, if you're facing it, it won't attack you. But if you turn around and run, you become bait. You become how the hunt part, right? They will come and get you. So you never turn your back on a cat if possible. But yeah, the stairway, what do? Don't get on it. Yeah, I would have.
People ask me about those staircases all the time. I've never come across one. I mean, if I were to come across a strange door or something in the woods, I don't know. Me being me, I might open it. I'm not going to step through it though. But
right.
my team, actually, one of my teams is pretty well known at this point for documenting a portal, and out in an undisclosed location. We call it the Meadow, and it was like a cube that showed up in the middle of an open field one night. And David Pardue is in the chat. He was one of the guys that actually saw the cube, and you couldn't see it with your bare eyes without night vision or a thermal. And they sent a couple of our guys over to go check it out, and their heat signatures disappeared when they walked up to it. Wow. And the environment changed and everything. And
I've interviewed a bunch of people that UFOs and getting zapped by the UFOs, like the light would shine on them and burn them and stuff like that. And one of them, actually several people, they would tell me they still see them, or the UFOs continue to mess with them. And sometimes they can't see it with their eyes, but they know it's there. For some reason, they feel like it's right there. And if they put their camera up, they can see it. Yeah. But when they look with their eyes, they can't see it. And then sometimes they'll see one with their eyes, and then they'll bring their camera up, but they can't see it with the camera. It's like the weirdest thing. I don't know why that is. I'm just saying it's weird. This portal thing is a trip.
It is, and I've experienced things like that firsthand. When I came home from the field one day, I had to come home. My team it was the same day that portal happened, the same night. I went home early because my son was like 2 or 3 years old at the time. He's 10 now, so it happened a while back. But he was at home, so I could only be gone for one night. Okay, so I came home, and And his dad was in the front living room, had his cell phone out and was videoing him. He was on the elliptical machine, you know, looking all cute. And I got called into the living room, and his dad was like, "Hey, you're going to love this. You got to come see what I've got going on over here." And I walked over there, and I saw these two orbs floating around my son that were dancing around my kid. And so he was looking at it through his phone, but he could not see them with his eyes. He could only see it through the phone. But my son and I, my son was pointing at them and following them around with his finger, saying, "Mom, balls, balls." And so he and I could see them. His dad could not see them at all, except for through his phone.
See, now I've interviewed people with that happened with the Bigfoots, like around Yosemite. The kids could see the hairy man or the gorilla or whatever they're calling it, but the parents couldn't see it. And they're like, "Look, there he is right there," you know. And the parents could not see the Bigfoot, but the kids, like there'd be 3 kids, all 3 kids could see it. And they're describing it, and the parents are like, "There was nothing there." And they treated the kids like there was nothing there. But then later things would happen where they couldn't deny something was there, right? They would hear things, see things happen, but they still never saw the Bigfoot. But the kids would say, "Oh, the gorilla did it," or "the hairy man did it," right? "We saw them do that." And there's so many things like when I first started, you know how you believe something and you say, "Okay, this is as far as I can believe for that," right? And then you, like with the infrared light, the Bigfoots, we couldn't get them on camera. We tried every way that you could think of them. And I'm going way back, right? Security cameras first, then game cameras, and game cameras came out. And I started realizing they can see the infrared. In the infrared, they could see it. Is like we would set up these cameras and do our thing to where they would come in to camp. And as soon as we turned on everything, it was like they knew we were going to hit the switch first, and then they would be out of the IR field almost instantly, out of it, and then just be on the edge of it. So we could keep it on and looking, and they'd be out there hooting and hollering and doing whatever, throwing little pebbles and stuff. And we would turn it off, and then they would get closer again. They could see how far the beam was. And I knew this all the way back, like 2009. It's just now starting to come out that everybody's starting to think they can see the IR. And that's a few years ago we started using, and we couldn't afford it at first, the thermal cameras. They were so expensive, but that was the only way really that you can look at these things, right? I've tracked them miles into the wilderness, and then their track would end in the snow. Like it ended, flat ended. There was no way for it to get away. Like what happened? And I've had that happen several times where I've tracked them, and they ended. And then I was interviewing some guys up here deer hunting, and they called me up, and I got a really cool track in the snow of one, and they had seen one, and they started shooting at it, and it went up a tree. They said it jumped 25 feet in one jump and was up in the top of the tree, and they were still shooting at it. And then it started going from tree to tree, jumping from tree to tree. We're 30 feet from a tree to another tree. And they were on the ground running and shooting at it, and it got away. It got away, going at the top of the trees, jumping from tree to tree. It got away. Like these things have abilities that I don't know how we would even really catch one. If it's almost impossible. They could disappear in front of you. They can appear in front of you. They can jump like Spider-Man, you know, like what in the world? They could pick up giant boulders. They can knock trees down.
I think there's a supernatural element to it. And from the very first time I ever went on my first expedition up in North Georgia, first of all, I realized that there's I personally, in my experience, believe there's a connection between UFOs and ETs and Bigfoot. Okay, because that was my experience. I've had a lot of people on my shows, even, and people that I've gone researching with and stuff. You know, not everybody has had the same experiences that I've had. So, you know, let's just say my friend Keith. Okay, he's my friend. He's been on the show. One of my research friends. He sleeps I sleep in a hammock too sometimes, but he'll sleep in a hammock, and I'll put my tent next to him, so the Bigfoots will go eat him at night as a burrito instead of me. Okay, I'm just kidding. I joke around about that.
I call tents 3-man sack lunch. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So Keith is notorious for sleeping in his hammock, which is great for me. It's safer for me when he's in his hammock.
Right.
But Keith will go out there, and there was a night where we were out in the field, and he was hearing footsteps. Okay, heavy footsteps in the base camp. Okay, and everybody was asleep. But he said that there was heavy footsteps, and then he saw a flash of light before he could like really get up and kind of peek out from under his tarp. He said there was a flash, and then no more footsteps. Okay, and so to him, he thought, well, he's a wildlife biologist by profession. Okay, and very scientifically minded.
It's good to have those guys on your team. Mm-hmm. It really is.
It is, but we're trying to figure out like how are the Bigfoots disappearing into thin air?
Right.
Okay, like what's going on? And I was gonna kind of say that I've had people on my show, people that I research with, that are convinced there's nothing supernatural about Bigfoot.
Right.
They're following the track lines, and they just disappeared into thin air. Well, they had to have walked backwards and put their feet perfectly into the footsteps behind them and backtrack. And I've always thought, okay, that's possible. Impossible. I said, I think it could be possible, but I don't believe that's what's going on.
Right.
Personally. Okay.
I've tracked them where I was minutes behind them, where you could see the lines of their feet, and it was so perfect of a track. I was only minutes, and then it just disappeared. It just stopped. Right. Okay. You know, one thing that I found that I want to pass on to you guys, that they can see through tents.
Yeah.
And I didn't know this. One of our guys, he was on, I don't know, one of the shows, but the Bigfoot would glow its eyes red, and then he could turn it off and on, right? This glowing eye thing. Well, it was raining one time, and we had, first we would go up there, and he had a pacemaker put in, and they would zap him, and it would scare him because it was messing with his pacemaker. So he was like freaking out, and they could pick him out of a group of us and zap him. So he would go in his tent. And one time we were in this big 10-man tent, and they knew where he was in the tent, and they were zapping him in the tent. So then like several times, this over the course of a year or so. And then one day it was raining. It rained. Like the first night it was not raining. The second night it was raining, and his tent had a leak in it, and he brought his own tent. So I put a tarp over his tent. That night that he had the tarp, he didn't get zapped. They couldn't see through the tarp. So I was like, I wonder if that's a thing, right? I wonder if that's a thing. So the next time we went, it wasn't raining, and he was getting zapped. So then the next night, I put the tarp over his tent, and he didn't get zapped. And we left it on, and he didn't get zapped all the rest of the trip. And then from then on, we kept putting the tarp on his tent that he was in, and he never got zapped again in the tent. So how did they know where he was in the tent, where they could selectively, like if we're sitting 2 feet apart or 6 inches apart, they could zap him, knowing, I guess, they were messing with something electronic in him. How could they do that? And then how could they know where in the tent, in a big tent, where he was specifically, they have to be able to see through it. And then with the tarp on it, they can't see through it. And that, so now if you're out there and they're messing with you, doing things, pushing where you are in the tent, like pushing their finger in or stuff like that, put a tarp over it, and then they don't know, they're blind on where you are in there. That's and it good. Might be something you guys might try and see if that works for you over there.
Oh. Well, Alan, that's wild. Okay, that's great advice too. But I'm just thinking about all the times that we've been out in the field and our electronics go haywire.
Oh my God.
So I would really be hesitant to go out into the field or to have people out there that have pacemakers in and any kind of medical device in their body that's keeping them alive, because there's a lot of really strange interference with electronics and batteries and things out there.
They do. They make your batteries go dead. Like I've been all over the world with a camera, and I never had my batteries go dead like that. When what's really weird is we'll see one and it'll be like 700 yards away and it'll be doing something and it never faced us, right? Never faced us. And I'll bring my camera up with a fresh battery. I mean, I haven't used my camera at all, 3-hour battery. I bring my camera up, turn it on, and as this thing, soon as I start doing that, it freezes with its back to me, and it's frozen, not moving, and then my battery dies. And then I look down to see what's going on with my camera, and when I look back up, it's gone. Like, how did it know I was even looking at it? How did it know? Like I was looking at it for 30, 40 seconds before I brought my camera up, and it was just busy digging in the rock. And then soon as I touched my camera and started bringing it up, it froze. Like, how did it know what I was doing? I didn't even turn it on yet. Like, how do they know that? And that's not the first time. But you know what's really weird is they don't know about the thermal camera. I don't understand. We can use thermal cameras and get them on there, and I've done it several times, only people don't understand when they're around, you're on high alert.
Yeah.
And you're not thinking properly because you know this thing's huge. It can cover 100 yards in a couple of seconds. It could rip your car door off and take you out. I mean, there's nothing going to stop it. Even shooting it. I don't even think there's a gun big enough. I don't think it, I carry a pistol, but it's more like if they grab me and they're running off with me, then I'm going to take it out and put it on its head and blow it away. The only way you could kill them is through the head. You can't kill them on the body. But how do they know? And then how do they shut my battery off? How do they do that? And be selective. My battery will die, but the guy next to me with his camera on, but not aiming at him, his battery's fine. Sometimes all the batteries, but how do they do that? How do they do that? Like, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff I don't know, but I want to know.
I want to know too. So we're out there still trying to figure all this stuff out. I mean, actively out there, we've come to terms. Okay. When you've been out doing this as long as you and I have done it, you've done it longer than I have by far, but if you don't come to terms and you don't humble yourself a little bit, I don't know what to tell you, because we've discovered, and some of the guys on my teams even have said, I just gave up. Okay. Because we're never going to figure this out. We're out here looking, some of the guys that are like, well, we started off looking for a big old primate in the woods. And then we ended up finding out it's not a primate in the woods. And then we have UFOs flying over us. Then we've got missing time. We're picking up portals. We've got ETs chasing us around and orbs and all sorts of stuff. And they're like, if we're crazy to think that we're, first of all, the top of the food chain. Okay, we're not the top of the food chain.
That's what I always thought. I'm the apex predator, right? But I learned over the years, they're the forest ninja apex predator, right? They rule the woods. We're nothing. We're a popcorn fart. That's all we are, that's what we are. You know what? I tick off a lot of people over the years because I've done demons, ghosts, alien abductions, and like I said, I traveled around the world with a camera. And in the 80s, before I saw Bigfoot, I think the year before, no, it was the same year I saw Bigfoot, but earlier in the year I saw Bigfoot in October. But I traveled around the world, and I was over in Africa, and I got hired by a church group to document where their money that they send over there, where their money goes, right? How they donate all this money to these tribes in Africa, and they want to know how much of it actually goes there and what did they spend it on, right? So we're going over there to document this in 3 different countries in Africa. And I learned about demons over there and voodoo and demons. And I actually saw demon-possessed people. And then that made me look into it. You know, when I got back in the United States, I started looking into it. Then when the internet came out, it was like, whoa, you know, a lot of stuff opened up to where I could really look. Well, over the years, I've actually went in and got rid of demons out of people. I exorcise them. I don't like saying that word, but using Jesus' name, I've stopped demons. I've stopped hauntings in houses. I've actually stopped alien abductions using Jesus' name. And what I'm finding, like how you're finding all these things are all connected, right? Or they go together, right? Well, I think they all come from the same dimension. And when we start looking into, and I know a lot of people don't like hearing this because some people like Bigfoot and some people talk to Bigfoot, and I know they talk to aliens, and some people, you know what I mean? Like they have their spirit guide and all these things. And I understand because I used to be there too. Right? But like what I was saying, you believe a certain way until you encounter something and it blows your paradigm out. And then you got to believe something different because everything you thought you knew got blown away.
Exactly. That's what some of the guys on my team say. And as a matter of fact, David Pardue just said the same thing. He's on my team. He said, Alan, you're on the same wavelength as me. And me too. All, you know, like I said, anybody who's had some skin in the game for a while, we know that there's this, first of all, a lot of this stuff's connected. And I am just coming to terms with the fact that a lot of this could be demonic.
Yeah.
To some of it, not all of it, I don't think, but some of it. In through doing the Bigfoot research, I started getting, you know, we had UFOs and stuff flying over us in the field. I started getting visited by ETs in my bedroom at night.
Right.
After that, now Kent Baxter, thank you so much for that super sticker. I hope you have a Merry Christmas too.
The aliens, you know Heidi Hollis.
I've heard of her. I've not met her yet, but I know who she is. She's the hat man lady, right?
Yeah, she does the coast to coast thing. Heidi Hollis, she was part of our show when we were on the Art Bell Network. She was part of our show, and she did a section on aliens and stuff like that, shadow people. I could go way into this shadow people thing. That also could be stopped by Jesus' name. But she was saying, like, she taught me a lot about the aliens. They were coming in to her house and stuff. And she said one day they came in and she could hear them bumping around in the other room. She didn't know what it was. But when she opened the door to the other room, there was these 3 little aliens in there, and it made her mad. And they were looking at the pictures she had on this shelf. And one of the pictures was her nephew. As a kid, her kid nephew. And she went over there, and it was going to reach, she reached for the picture, it made her mad, and she went over there and she punched this alien. She punched it, and it fell on the ground, but as it fell, it turned into her nephew. What he was seeing in the picture.
Shapeshifters.
And it turned right into her nephew, and then was like, "Don't hit me," in her nephew's voice. But she knew it wasn't her nephew because that picture was 17 years old. So the nephew really was already grown, right? So it didn't, but it would have faked her out if that would have been a current picture. She would have thought, oh my God, I can't beat up my nephew. It was that real to her. So
oh my
like,
God.
I know a lot of people, they think they are experts on all this stuff. I'm not an expert, right? I'm not. Okay, I'm not an expert, but I'm also don't know everything. And it's so easy for that dimension to say whatever and we would believe it because it's extra dimensional and extra paranormal and way beyond our little skill set, that we would just believe it and take for granted whatever they say or do. And we need to really be protective of it. The only thing I have that makes it easier for me to go this way is in 2000, I died on the operating table. And I went somewhere. I didn't die. I actually was alive, actually more alive than I am right now. I went somewhere where I was traveling around at the speed of thought. I want to be over here. I think it, and there I am, right? If I wanted to know something, I just think about it, and there was the answer. There was colors like over there. You see the whole spectrum of color. Over here, we just see a narrow band of light. The same with the sound. Over here, we only hear a narrow band of sound. Over there, you hear all of it. And smells, everything. You could smell too. I was like, I couldn't believe it. But I know it's real, right? That dimension is real. And what I found when I was over there that I don't share very much with anybody, you're getting an exclusive here.
Hey.
Over there, when you're on that side or in that dimension, you can be nose to nose with somebody. In this dimension, you can't see them, but over there, they can see you. Right. A lot of times they can't do anything to this dimension, right? They can't affect it, but they could be seeing everything and be right there in front of you, and you can't see them, but they can see you. So that means like how many things are around you, angels, demons, whatever.
Yeah.
How many are around you and you don't even know it?
Yeah, that's what we've talked about, those dicyan dye goggles that I think our military was using them back in Vietnam. And the dicyan dye got banned or outlawed because when these soldiers, I think they were like machine gunners on helicopters, were wearing them. And when they put these goggles on, they could see into a different dimension. And so they were shooting at the other helicopters, at the friendlies, because they were watching as demons were flying up. What they described as demons flew up next to their helicopters, and they were scared of these demons.
Yeah, there's something that, and I don't want to be like, oh, I did all this and seem like I'm like blowing my horn or whatever. But I think this is really important on the Bigfoots again, on shooting them. Okay, like the Indians, they taught me that when they were with the war with the Bigfoot, the only way to kill it was to cut its head off. If they were shooting it, it would heal itself. It would be healed, supernaturally healing itself, right? Then we interviewed the guy that killed the Kandahar giant. And the only way they killed that was by shooting it in the head. But the crew the troops they were looking for, that giant killed and ate, had shot at it. And when they happened onto it, which just a day or two later, they could see where it was all shot up in the body, but it was already healing. And they were shooting at it, and it wasn't even affecting it until he yelled, "Shoot the head, shoot the face." And then they killed it, and that's how they killed that giant. And from what I understand, the Indians, they were telling me the same thing about Bigfoot. You could shoot it with a high caliber right in the heart. It'll jump up and run away, and it will be healed. It won't die unless they cut the head off. So that's something else to think about when you're shooting. Like say one is after you, don't aim at the body, okay? Aim at the head. That's the only way to kill that thing.
Yeah.
You know?
I've always been told 2 to the body, at least 1 to the head.
Yeah, all
Sorry,
to the
everybody.
head, and if you have to slow it down, shoot the body. But if you want to
Yeah.
stop it completely, shoot the head. Shoot in the face. That's why I said when they grab me and run away with me, that's when I'm going to pull my gun out and, you know, boom, boom. I'm going to shoot it right in the head.
Yeah. If only Albert Ostman had known that he was in a sleeping bag being carried by a Bigfoot. If he had a weapon on him, he could have done something. But yeah, I mean, I was talking with Vic Cundiff about this just this week. He's with the Dogman Encounters Radio. He was on the show. He takes a lot of Dogman encounter reports. And I think more than anybody I know, and has puts him on his channel and interviews. And he and I were talking because, you know, I go out and I'm not only a Bigfoot researcher. I have a team out of Tennessee where we go on Dogman investigations.
Wow, they have them in Tennessee, huh?
Oh yes.
Wow.
Yeah. There's actually some pretty well-known cases of the werewolves, like Werewolf Springs, Tennessee. There's a couple out there. Dogman reports and suspected Dogman attacks on people over in East Tennessee. And he recently has had some Hondo, this one guy went on a show. He's had some encounters with Dogmen up there in East Tennessee. And that's kind of where we go on some of our hunts. But Vic and I were talking, you know, he said of all the people he's interviewed and stuff, people, you know, humans are kind of conditioned to think that we're the top of the food chain, like you and I were just talking about. He was like, but really, people think that they have a say-so when it comes to, you know, if they're going to, you know, take care of a Dogman or let's just say Dogman. If they're going to unalive, as we say on YouTube, a Dogman. But really, it's not up to us. It's really up to the Dogmen or even the Bigfoots out there. If they want you dead, you're going to be dead. Okay.
Right.
You're going to be dead. You're not going to survive.
That's right.
And it's not really up to us. I mean, any kind of a weapon or whatever is nothing compared to what they could do to you in a split second on all of these cryptids. And so it's a sad fact, but it's the truth. As far as us humans go, it's sad for us. But it also shows you, I'm out there. I've been going out in the woods consistently for years and years, well over a decade, and I'm still here to tell about it.
But I think they know if they take you out, that it'll get, then a lot of people are going to go, right? A lot of people are going to go look for you, and they're not going to stop, and it's going to be like a world renowned, you know, like everybody around the United States is going to go looking for him. But if they take Joe Schmo, they'll look for him for a little while, and then, you know, it'll kind of, oh, well, Joe Schmo disappeared, you know. But if you disappeared or I disappeared, and we were actually out there for that, then it turns into it's something different. And I think they know. I think they know that. They understand. My light just went off. But it's okay. I'm just sitting in the dark now. Not really. There's light, but
we can still see you.
Yeah.
We have a lot of questions too in the chat, and I've been putting stars on them. So I'm going to go back and I just want the audience to know I'm not ignoring y'all. I'm putting them in a little box over here so we can go back.
I've been ignoring them because I don't want to get caught up on, you know.
Well, we've just been in the flow of things, and you've got some wonderful, wonderful things you've been talking about tonight. And I didn't want to interrupt you at all because this is good information. And it's not only just great information from my standpoint of being a researcher, but just for the general public to know these things. Yeah. It's imperative that we do know the dangers and just the way it goes out there. Caleb Jade. Caleb's in the chat tonight. He said, if you think you're the top of the food chain, go swimming with the great whites.
Right. Yeah. I won't swim in the ocean, you know. You don't have to go very far out there to be a meal.
Yes. Well, knowing what we know now for sure. And Larry Sharp, thank you for being a member of the Hunt Club for 8 months. I saw that. Thank you so much for your support. Now, Sovereign Cosmic Wild Man had a question earlier about, he said, Alan, can you vouch for that West Coast Sasquatches that like citrus? Often they're seen in citrus groves.
Something interesting about citrus. That's a good question. Okay. And for the longest time, okay, I don't know, 100 people have seen them in citrus, or go across the road from one citrus grove to the other citrus grove. We have a farmer up here that had 5 of them that were in his citrus orchard hunting pigs, and they got a pig and he was shooting at them and everything, but they were in the citrus. And for the longest time, I thought they liked citrus, right? They're eating oranges. That's what I thought. And, you know, 5 years into this now, 5 years into this, we're in the citrus. We got a track. We actually cast a track in the citrus and some tangerines, which went over to oranges. But they're evergreen. They're always green. They always have their leaves. They're huge trees over here. They're huge, 12 feet tall, big, wide, 7 feet wide trees. You could get inside one and you could disappear. You could go one step from one tree to the other. Once you're one row away, nobody can see you, and you can avoid everybody. And I started doing that to the team. And I was like, I'm going to be a Bigfoot, and I could be 5 feet away from everybody and they didn't know I was there. And then I started thinking, wait a minute, you know, I'm playing Bigfoot. What if there's one right behind me or right over, you know? Then I started freaking out because it could get in the orchard and disappear completely and be right there. It could be inside the tree, 2 feet away from me in the actual tree, reach out and grab me. And I was thinking, like, whoa, they're not after the oranges. They're ninjas. They're forest ninjas. So they're in the oranges because they're orange grove ninjas too, right? They may eat oranges too, but that's not why they're there. That's because they can be Houdini in there, right? That's why.
Oh my gosh. You know, I was just thinking about something. Barry's in the chat, Barry Littleton. He and I do a lot of shows together. And we have both discussed trees being portals as well. Trees being portals. And he talked about that on his show earlier today. There's several videos out there actually of what appear to be Bigfoots coming out of trees, literally coming out of a tree. And even Dogman as well. And I have one of my teammates, his name's Tony Green. He's been on my show a couple of times, and he tells a story about his uncle. When he was younger, his uncle was running from the police or something. The cops showed up at the house. He needed to get out the back door. Okay. He was going to get in trouble or something. And so he ran out. They said that he ran out of the back door and he went behind a big oak tree. I think he said an oak tree. And as he went behind the tree, what came out of the other side of the tree was a dog, and it trotted off into the woods. And then when the police left, that dog came back out of the woods, went behind that tree, and he came out as his uncle on the other side.
Whoa.
And, yeah, it's like
trip. That's a trip.
Well,
I've not heard that one. I've heard a lot, but I haven't heard. I heard them being in trees, but that's a real good one. I've heard of people killing the Dogman, and then when they went to the body, it was somebody.
Like a werewolf.
Yeah. And, you know, and I guess that goes back to history too. That's why those movies are like that. You know, they tell you the truth in the movies. If you watch the movies, they're telling the truth in the movies. Pay attention.
Yeah. We have a well-known werewolf of Georgia. What was her name? Emily Isabella Burt was her name. It was a girl, a female. And she went off. The story goes that she went off to boarding school. Her father passed away. Her mom sent her off to boarding school in Europe, of course. And when she came back, she had a weird sleep patterns, and she was growing hair in weird places on her body and stuff, and her teeth were getting all jagged and stuff. And so it was just all these things were kind of adding up. And then the neighbor's livestock was ending up dead. And so the mother put 2 and 2 together and was like, well, my daughter's kind of disappearing at night. I'm afraid this might be my daughter. She might be a werewolf or something. But it turned out one thing led to another, and her mother was coming home. She was trying to protect her daughter. They had created a search party to go out to find whatever was unaliving all these farm animals. her mother was afraid it was her daughter. So she went into this hunt party, and she was coming home late one night from being at that hunt party, and something jumped out at her through out of a bush, and she shot it. And the thing ran off. She shot it in the hand or on the paw, is what she said.
And then her daughter had a shot, right?
She had, her hand was halfway blown off when she got home. She was holding her hand, it had been shot. Yeah. So she's buried down in a place where we do, I think it's Talbot County. It's near where we do some of our Bigfoot research, in a place called the Troop Herd Corridor. We have a lot of alien abductions down there, a lot of Dogman sightings and Bigfoot sightings, a lot of high strangeness in that area where she lived and where she's buried.
You're getting ready to have a guest. He's one of my best friends. If you've had some of my best friends on here, Javier, and yes, you're going to have Adolf, the 101102. But you got to ask Adolf. Like, you hear me, Adolf. Don't forget Adolf. We have a lot of dogmen around here, and we go out all the time. And Adolf, we went out on a dogman encounter that was real fresh, like maybe 24 hours. Oh, yeah. And in this one certain place, and I couldn't walk very good. So Adolf, and he can't walk very good either. He has a bum knee, but he goes off, and I don't feel like going all the way down there for nothing. So he goes ahead, and then he runs into the dogman. He encounters it. And I didn't know that. I'm wandering around looking at stuff and looking for tracks, and then here comes Adolf running down the road yelling, like run, run, run. It was he ran into the. So when you get Adolf on, besides talking about alien abduction, you got to ask him about, what did that dogman look like?
Oh, I've had him on the show before. He's talked about it, actually. Yeah. And he actually has a question for you.
Okay. Oh, he does.
And so, yeah, I have it on the screen. It says, Alan, talk about the rocks that were thrown at us at Ross Crossing while me and my cousin were trying to walk out of that area, as Alan was waiting for us to walk back.
Yeah, like, because I can't, I'm better now. I've had some surgeries. In fact, I'm going to have a surgery January 7th. It'll be my 4th one, and I'm getting better. But we were at this place, Ross Crossing, in the middle of nowhere, in a beautiful place in the Sierras with a fresh creek. And they took off hiking, and I was sitting there, and I was creeped out. Something was there, right? And for some reason, you could feel it when they're around sometimes. And it was too quiet. There wasn't any bug noise. I mean, it was almost like I couldn't even hear the creek sound. So it was creepy. Mm-hmm. And they were gone about an hour, and they come back, and they're running back again, moving quick. And they're talking about having rocks thrown at them. Didn't surprise me one bit, because they're over there. I've had, not with Adolf, but with family members and friends that go there and camp out. I've had people talk about UFOs and having rocks thrown at them and stuff like that. Like when they're fishing, big rocks will come out of the trees and land in the creek next to them and stuff. So it didn't surprise me, but yeah, that's one of those places that it's almost like there's a portal there or something, because a lot of things happen right there.
Mm-hmm. I've asked both, I think I've asked Adolf and Javier both about if there's a portal out there. Javier's got some really good pictures too of dogmen. Really good evidence of dogmen. Some of the best I've seen, including that one that was climbing a fence. And so we've shown all of his pictures that he's given to me on the channel before. And I love having both of them on the show.
We're still getting reports. In one of the places that he took that picture, it's out here. It's just like a little acre or two of eucalyptus trees in the middle of a whole bunch of citrus. There's citrus all around. And he got a picture of the dogman in there, and it was like he was feeling like something's around there, and he's taking pictures and video, and he catches this stuff. But only we actually were out there because of a dogman sighting and goats. Whatever it wasn't eating the goats. It was ripping them in half and draining the blood out of them And we would find these dead goats over in this area with their head twisted all the way around, right?
Yeah.
But they weren't torn apart. They were just drained of blood, no blood. And their head would be screwed around, like way screwed around. And the people were losing 30 or 40, 100-pound, 125-pound goats all the time. And that's why we were over there in that spot. This is about the albino Sasquatch.
Yeah.
The albino Sasquatch, that one, I started hearing about that one in the early 90s. I was working at the casinos, and the tribal members would come and tell me, hey, the white Bigfoot, it crossed the road over this side of this reservation. And we have like 3 or 4 reservations within 20 miles of each other. And I started hearing about that white one, and I've been looking for it all over the place. And then one day my son and his friends were out fishing along the Kings River, and now they're at least 9 or 10 miles away from where the tribe is telling me about. And there's the white Bigfoot. They see the white Bigfoot, and they freak out and they leave. And then about 8 years later, we get called from Reedley, this little town. It has the river, Kings River, running through it. It has a college. And this guy gives us a video of this white Bigfoot in the orchard. And it was like playing with his cat. What? And I mean, just a little glimpse. It was like the Bigfoot knew he pulled out the cell phone and immediately ducked down and then took off. And I was like, that white Bigfoot, I've been tracking that white Bigfoot for 25 years, and all up and down the Kings River, this white Bigfoot.
Oh man, we actually have white Bigfoots. There's at least one in Alabama. We call it the Alabama white thing. And yes, it's thing, not thing. Okay, that's how I say it.
Yeah.
And also, there's been reports of one. I'm not sure if the head of my team saw it or he took a report on it. I can't remember. But there's supposed to be one up in North Georgia. And some people think that it's probably not albino, so to speak. It's more like an old one, like really old. Its hair's turned gray or something. That was kind of the feeling of it. So
this one, they described it. Everybody that just saw it described it the same. And I'm talking about over like a 40-mile stretch along this river. I've had all these people tell me they seen this Bigfoot, right? Over 25 years of tracking this thing. They all describe it 6.5 feet tall, not really, really big, not really long legs, but pure white. And when the video came out, guess what? It was like 6.5, 7 feet tall. It was exactly the one. And it's along that river, it was like, I knew it had to be the same one. It had to be.
Yeah. There's not too many white Bigfoots out there.
No.
There's not. No,
that we know of.
Yeah.
That we know of.
That we know
took a
of.
report. I took a report at a place called Dinky Creek up here, and it was a guy hunting with his dad. His dog wouldn't get out of the truck, and he wanted to walk up, and it was where these power lines go through the woods, and they have it's like cleared, right? Big, tall power lines. And he was walking that on a trail, and he thought at first he saw this white thing next to a stump. And as he's walking, he just thought it was like a grocery bag or something, plastic bag. All of a sudden, the plastic bag stood up, and it was multicolored. It had black spots, like a calico, kind of like. And it freaked him out. So he started running to his truck, and this thing started running to cut him off. And like it was going to tackle him or something. And right before it got to him, it veered off into the woods, but it was multicolored. Then farther up at China Peak, where we have a ski resort, some of the people that work at the ski resort, they're telling me they're seeing multicolored ones, like like brown and black and red and black, and not all spotty like the one the guy was talking about it, but only they're like us. There's a bunch of different kinds, right? Red ones, black ones, brown ones, multicolored ones. It's interesting.
Sounds like a cat, like Calico and Brindle.
Right.
I've heard of Brindle. It's the same with Dogman too, and these werewolves or Dogmen, I guess, out there. Eric's in the chat. Author E.D. Testerman is in the chat. That's Eric, and he's taking some reports out of Missouri on werewolf sightings and Dogman sightings, and I believe one of those sightings was I think they called it Brindle. Kind of like kind of how a dog is, like a pit bull, I guess.
Yeah, like a pit.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't heard that one, but the multicolor one, I get those all the time. What's this one?
It says, Riley Ron Ivy Forrest says, what's Alan's opinion on people allegedly talking telepathically with Bigfoot? Is it possible? And if yes, how do you know it's a Bigfoot and not some other type of entity?
Okay, I got a story on that one. Okay. I didn't believe in it. This is one of those things where you could believe so far, and then that's like too far, right?
Right.
And my aunt was she passed away a couple of years ago, but she was a professing white witch. That's what she called herself. And one day, like we would talk, and I kind of didn't believe that either, right? Some of the things that she would say, I was like, that's too far for me to believe, right? So one day we're out here where she's visiting and staying at my house, and we're sitting outside, and she liked to smoke the good stuff, okay? And we're sitting out there, and she's toking on the good stuff, and she tells me, you're going to the Bigfoot's house tomorrow, right? And I'm like, how do you know? Like, I didn't tell her anything. I don't know how she knew that. She says, yeah, so you're going to its house. Did you ask permission? I'm like, what? I'm not going to its house. I'm going to the mountains, and anyone can go to the mountains, right? I can go anywhere over there. I'm not in its house. She goes, well, you're going right where it lives, so you need to ask permission. And I'm like, what? She says, so why don't you just ask for permission right now? And I'm thinking, this is about the stupidest thing I ever heard. I'm not going to do it. And she's finally was like, okay, I'll ask permission. Bigfoot, can I go to your house like that? Yeah. And she goes, no, say it with your mind. Say it in your mind. I'm like, all right. So I don't even know why I played along. I should have walked off, but I didn't. So in my mind, I go, Bigfoot, can I come to your house? And then I heard a voice in my head. And when I heard the voice, my aunt goes, aren't you going to answer him? I'm like, what? Like, how did she know that, like, is she doing that to me? Like, wait a minute, what's going on here, right? And it asked me if it could have permission to go in my house. And I was like, what? And then another one started laughing at my reaction. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, I'm hearing something asking me if it could go in my house. So I start conversing with it in my brain. I'm like, no, you can't go in my house. Then why should we give you permission to go in our house? And then they started telling me about how we're all connected and we're brothers and they're our big brother. And they started showing me in a vision how we're connected in like a web of life, right? Kind of like that movie where they were blue and they connected with their tail. I can't remember what Avatar, kind of like Avatar. That's how we were connected. And they were showing me this, right, with the tree. And then, it went back to that I could go to I could go in their house if I let them in my house. And it was like, wait a minute. So I told them, I pray all the time because of what I do and where I go and things I encounter, I pray all the time that evil cannot come in my house from property line to property line. In Jesus' name, if it's evil or anything of that ilk, it cannot come on my property. And I said, if you have to ask permission, then no, because if you were any kind of good, you didn't have to ask permission. Only something evil or in that side has to ask, right? And then everything ended. Like, that was the end of it. And my aunt's like, what did you tell him that for? Like, that was stupid. You know, I'm sitting there looking at her like, oh my God, how does she know this? She goes, you know, and then she couldn't hear what I was saying, all of it, but she could hear most of the conversation. And that was it for me. I had it. I was like, whoa. I got up and I went, you know, I left and I went to the Bigfoot's house or whatever. But yeah, so I believe they can mind speak. I've talked to a lot of people that have. I used to not believe it. Only there goes one of those paradigms that I had a hard time believing. It just got smashed, right? Now I'm almost to the point now where I have an open mind. I don't set boundaries anymore. Now I just try to discern what's going on, right? Like, everything is possible. Just like, you better be prayed up, you know, and you better know God, and then you could take these things on. But if you don't know it, I wouldn't even go some of these places unless I was prayed up, because you really don't know what you're dealing with, right? You really don't.
That's right. And Javier was in the chat a while ago saying that he and his team say a prayer of protection before they go out. And I've gotten into some sticky situations out in some of these investigations that we've done. I'd mentioned Tennessee earlier with the Dogman hunts that we do. We got called up to a property one time last year. And it was a family who was having potential Bigfoot activity. Something was taking their chickens out of their chicken coop. And they had a cave in their backyard, and so it was taking their chickens in the cave, never seeing them again. And
there's a lot of caves over there, huh?
Yeah, a lot of cave systems, caves, and it turned out after doing some research on this property that they had just moved to. Turned out it was Choctaw. Formerly, like the Choctaw lived there, and they used that cave as, I'm going to say at one time, Skinwalker Cave. And so when we went up there, we had to prepare to encounter those. Okay. And I had never really encountered anything like that before. And so I contacted my good friend, William Nighthawk, and he is a shaman medicine man. And he prepared us and my team. He gave me the instructions on how to handle it. And it was 100% spiritual.
Yeah.
Based. It was almost like hunting vampires. Is what that was. Yeah. And to say it was unnerving is to put it lightly.
Well, you know what you guys have over there? I have a lot of relatives in Tennessee. Actually, I have a sister living over there too. A lot of history there. Like, all my real ancestors and stuff are all buried in Tennessee, you know, all around there. Knoxville area and all that. But my wife's grandpa, you guys have little people.
Yes.
I don't know. We haven't touched on that one yet, but my wife's grandpa, when we would go back there, that's all he wanted to talk about. And he would paint paintings of Native American traditions of death and all of this stuff. And one of the ones he always wanted to paint was the little people. And he always would tell me, I would ask him, hey, Grandpa, did you paint the little people yet? You know, he's like, they won't give me permission. And so that went on over the years. And then one day he was out here and we were having Thanksgiving and he was making everybody talk in Cherokee. I can't, so I didn't say much, but they were all talking in Cherokee. And then after dinner, he pulls me to the side. He goes, hey, I finished the painting of the little people. And he started telling me all about these little people. And then after that, that's almost all we talked about was the little people over there, how the white people come along, buy some land or get some land, and they're going to build a house or something. And he says, don't build it right there. You're going on the trail of the little people, a little trail they have. If you do that, you're going to have nothing but trouble, because that's their thoroughfare, you know. They'll be like, yeah, whatever, and build a house. And he says, then they call it poltergeist or haunted, because they have nothing but trouble over there, right? Haunted stuff. And it really was the little people. He was laughing at the white people like, hey, you idiot, you know, it's not ghosts. That's the little people that you built your house on their trail. I told you, you know. But yeah, a lot of little people stuff over there. Yeah, a lot.
Oh, well, okay. So first of all, I wanted to thank Maureen and Gus for that super sticker. Thank you so much, Maureen. Merry Christmas to y'all. So much. That's so sweet. And yeah, keep it squatchy, y'all. Have a squatchy Christmas, everybody. And thank you so much, Maureen. I do appreciate it. And happy birthday still. It's your birthday week. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you. And I hope you're having a good night. Okay. So
happy birthday.
Thank you. Yes, Maureen, happy birthday. Okay, so David Pardue, I keep bringing him up. He's in the chat tonight, and he's going to be my guest on the show on Monday. Okay, on Monday afternoon, Monday morning on the West Coast. But he has this video in North Carolina, out of North Carolina, and we're going to show it on the show. I've shown still shots. We're going to show the actual video on Monday, and it was him. It's a 40+ minute long video in one of the national forests in North Carolina, I do believe. I don't know if he has made it public which one yet. Okay, so I don't know if we're going to talk about that, but you can clearly see he was videoing. He was doing Bigfoot field research, but in the process of setting up his camera, his night vision, he got something that kept peeking out from behind the tree and then back and forth. It was in like a forked tree, and it's tiny. In the video, whatever this is, it looks like it's large. To me, I would think it was like 3 or 4 feet tall. I think it's like 2 feet tall or something. I mean, when I say large, I don't mean like 3 or 4 feet is not large, right. But I thought it was bigger than it is.
Well, you know,
it's something tiny.
The people, if you guys want to see what it looks like, of what my wife's grandpa painted them. So you can look up Cecil Dick online and put the little people painting, and that'll come up. I mean, he's like famous Indian painter, and you could actually see what his he says what they look like on there. And I mean, it's interesting if you guys want to look at it, but yeah, they're little, like 2 feet tall, but they look like adults. 2 feet tall, just like us little people. It's real interesting, but you can't see them with your eyes. And he was telling me like some of the lore on that was, if they ever invite you to their place and you can see them, you know, you have to fast 7 days. Yeah, you had to do all this stuff to be able to go into their dimension or whatever, and sometimes years would pass, and when you only think an hour or an afternoon had passed, kind of like Rip Van Winkle type stuff, right? And he would say that after you come back out, you can't talk about them. If you talk about them within 7 days, you will be, you know, zipped, or, you know, like what did you call that word? You'll move on, you know, to the next realm or whatever.
Unalive. Yeah, that's what we YouTube is so weird about saying stuff.
Yeah, they're terrible. I'm so shadow banned on mine, it's unreal. Like, I can't even get a view hardly because of it.
Oh my.
But I won't shut up, you know, I won't shut up. So if I say something on here, tell me to shut up, because on mine I say whatever. I don't think we should have to filter ourselves.
We should not. We should definitely not.
We're all adults, right? We're all adults.
We are. I'm going to try to show this picture right now. I'm going to try to share my screen here.
Okay.
Let's see if it'll work. Here we go. It's taking a second.
Yeah, that's it.
Let me try to blow it up. It's kind of blurry. This is the picture.
It's not a good picture, huh? Yeah, that's it.
It's the only one I can find, and it's really tiny, so it's going to be blurry. But that's it. So it just looks like they look like regular people, but they're just tiny.
See, now in that picture, that's him. In the middle there, that's him.
Okay.
He was the medicine man, whatever, painter, spiritualist, and he's with them, and they're around him. And then he painted them. And he, for the longest time, they wouldn't let him paint them. They told him no. He painted him and everything in the painting but them. And then one day they gave him permission to go ahead and finish the painting.
Wow. That's pretty cool. That's really cool.
Interesting, huh?
Yeah,
Fun
thank you for
stuff.
sharing that with us tonight. That's really awesome. Okay, hold on. Let me get back to my screen. Sorry. I'm missing everything here with all these. We have so many comments tonight. We have a huge chat tonight.
I haven't seen it. It distracts me. It's like flying by.
It's flying by.
I'm not even going to try to read it. Like,
no, I will listen. I will do all the work over here when it comes to that.
Okay.
I will pull these. I'm trying to get some of these comments up. This is Eric in the chat. He said, native legends say that you can learn to shift into an animal in form and back again. That was back when we were talking about shapeshifters.
You could, but
tonight.
you have to, there's some stuff you have to do that's real dark to have that ability.
Yes. Unfortunately, yeah, it's really dark. We've talked about that a good bit too, and that does involve black magic and unaliving people you love and all that
stuff.
But you know what? We kind of have to explore that sometimes because if we're trying to figure out what's going on, everything is not cookie cutter.
I agree.
Okay? And you have to have an open mind about everything. And not everyone is going to, like we said, we're not the top of the food chain. And we also have to realize that not everyone, don't want to say like has a clean mind or has manners and is a good servant of, of the Lord, basically, the good Lord, not the dark one. Okay. Because there are some people that are, that serve the darker forces.
Right.
Okay. And so we have to be aware of that. Even if you don't do it, other people do that. Okay. Yeah. And it's just a matter of being aware of it.
Oops. No.
Exactly. Right.
Sorry about that.
Agree. Well, I agree. Well, that is for entertainment purposes only, but I mean, I can't disagree with you on that.
Mm-hmm.
I can't. Speaking of I don't want to say government, you don't live too far in your research area. It kind of is near this Nevada Triangle.
We're right in it.
I was going to ask
on the bottom corner of it, I think.
Okay. What is going on within it's almost like the Bermuda Triangle, but it's right there by you. I've got a picture of it. Let's talk about the Nevada Triangle for a little bit.
It's kind of a trip. Back in, I would say, 2011, 2012, 2013, we were having a huge UFO flap. And I mean, we would get reports on one side of town, and then 10 minutes later, somebody else would call in and they would be describing the same thing, and we could follow where the UFO went on a map and over a couple of different cities, and they're all seeing the same thing. And Jeff has the host of the show, Paranormal Central, creator of it. He has a 24-hour hotline number, and people could call it, and it started getting known. We did 3 seasons on the local television station, so we were getting kind of known around here. And they would call the number, and I mean, everybody was calling. So we started tracking this thing and figuring out, writing everything down, the times, the sightings, where, everything, just keeping track of it, a log of it. And we started realizing that on Wednesday, I can't remember the days now, but Wednesday at 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. every week on Wednesday, can't remember if it's really Wednesday. I'm just using Wednesday as an example. And there was actually 2 days of the week where we started telling everybody to go outside and look, take your cameras. We started getting videos of UFOs because on those days, there was sightings, right? And the other days, nothing. And on these 2 days, at these certain times, you could go outside and see a UFO. And we're telling everybody, And we started talking about it on the TV show, of the local TV show. And within a week of us starting to talk about that, it stopped. And it hasn't started back again. But there's still UFO sightings and abductions and all, I mean, like abductions like you never heard of. Like Adolf's like, he probably has some of the more interactions than most of the abductees that they're willing to talk about. But there's some horrendous stories of what these things are doing around here. Like one of them, what do they call them? The night crawlers. And they're like these little things going across the yard. When that happened, that guy called us. And then we went and investigated it. A lot of the stuff that you see on the web is fake about that. It's actually, the guy couldn't even speak English. He would speak Spanish. It's not where the cable shows that, it's not where they say it is at all. But only that really did happen. And we tried to debunk it every single way, and we couldn't debunk it. So the Nightcrawler thing is real, but it's the first original video. All the other stuff you see that was in the mountains or here or there or everywhere, that is all fake. There was none of that, right? And it's the sad thing about the internet. Like right now, the drones, right? Now there's drones everywhere, but I could take my drone out and record it and, blur it or whatever. And I could put it up there and say, there's a drone in my house, and get views. And that's what it's all about. Everybody has to be careful about what they're seeing and believing, at the moment. It's kind of crazy, especially with AI and Bigfoot stuff. And there's almost everything's AI. You got to be careful.
It's a bunch of drones and stuff. Okay. So what you're saying, you're talking about the Fresno night crawlers. Is that that's what you're referring to now? We've talked about those a long time ago on the show.
Yeah.
Those are what look like a pair of pants legs walking. And there's allegedly there's CCTV footage of them basically.
Right. That's right.
Pointed out into like fields. I don't know if it's like a battlefield area or some kind of somebody's backyard. I don't know.
It's the guy's front yard. And it's right in the middle of town, right next to a high school, like a block away from a high school. I mean, but only we can't debunk it. We could not debunk that. And the guy it was like an old CCTV camera system. Like you couldn't fake that stuff, right? He has no idea what it is. Nobody's seen him since that I know of. And I don't think nobody's seen him since.
Nobody's seen the man who took the video?
No, the actual little nightcrawler things. Nobody's seen him before that, and nobody's seen him since that. And we don't even know if you could actually see it with your eyes, and only the camera could see it, right? One of those things. We don't know, right? We don't know. Yeah.
Okay, I think they're really cool. I got the feeling like they may be like some kind of elemental or something, and there's several different cases of cryptids or some kind of creature. Let's just say creatures that kind of come in and out of our reality, and they're here for like a week, and they're never seen or heard from again.
Right.
So it's kind of like jumping. Maybe there's things that are like jumping into this dimension and then going back to where they came from. I mean, who knows? Also,
I always thought they looked like the something coming out of Sesame Street or something like that. I mean, that's what it looked like to me, like a Sesame Street thing. And that's what, when we were trying to debunk it and we were at his house, and I kept on thinking, somehow they had a wire and it was like going across the yard, but it wasn't none of that. And he was the old guy. There's no way that he did that. And no way, nobody had access to his equipment. And we tried all different ways to make one with his equipment and go out there at night and do all kinds of stuff. And we didn't do anything. We couldn't make it look like it again. I mean, it was real, but
bell bottoms.
Weird.
Like bell bottoms. It's actually one of the more cool. It almost kind of like ghosts or something. Almost kind of transparent. Yeah.
Like I thought about that. Like maybe it's a full size ghost, and all we're seeing is the waist down.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Because they were little. They were really little. They were only like little people. They were really little, like 2 feet tall. Just
Are you
weird looking.
serious? I thought
Yeah.
they were way bigger than that. I thought that they
No.
were like human, like up to your waist size.
No,
No?
they're just little things. And there is a video of somebody with some really tall ones. That one's fake.
Man, it is, it is really sad in the days that we of technology now. That darn technology. Remember before we went live, I said, man, I can't stand technology sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Because as a researcher, it muddies the waters.
It's really bad.
Yeah.
And when you find something, when you get something, nobody believes it because of technology and all the people that will fake it later, or they have already been faking it and close, and it just makes it. I'm the same way, but I've been in technology a long time, and like the camera all around my whole life. I had the first video camera, the first VHS tape deck with a video camera attached. Before that it was film, and I've been all over the world with a camera, so I enjoy it. At the casino, I was the food and beverage director. I was also the director of the computer department, over the whole computers, all the computers, and marketing. And I even in my marketing, I would send myself to budget so that I could send myself to school for more computer stuff. So I'm into the tech a lot, but now, oh my God, it could really sabotage stuff. The government could use it to sabotage us. They just have to hire a couple of people to go out there and say contrary. That's all, and show tech stuff showing contrary, and nobody knows the truth.
Yeah. Well, that's why I like to do boots on the ground field research and go out and see things for myself and investigate things. And I love how you go out and you're trying to debunk these things too, to find out, well, what else could it have been? Because we have to do that. We have to do that. Like we always say, not everything is Bigfoot out in the field. You go out there and you hear some knocks, what sound like knocks on trees or something that screams. I mentioned my wildlife biologist friend who's out there with us. It's great to have people like that on your team so they can identify all the different owls. Let's just say, for instance, even myself, I've been walking my dog at night and heard some owls hooting, and I hooted back, and they came out. They started sounding like rabid monkeys.
Yeah,
and they chased me through the neighborhood, and I was scared. Okay,
that might have been Bigfoot.
No, not in Decatur, Georgia. Probably not downtown Decatur. It was
even downtown. Even downtown. Even downtown.
But those were owls.
Crazy, but it's crazy, but they're everywhere. They could be everywhere.
And Bigfoots can be. That's true. Yeah,
they could be everywhere. But going back to your guy, the biologist guy, on our team, we had he moved out of the area, but he was a law enforcement veteran, a crime scene investigator. That's what he did for a living, collected DNA, took pictures. He was a crime scene investigator. And at one of our places we call the Spot, where a lot of stuff happens, we had a Bigfoot look in the windows of our truck, and it snotted on the window. And we knew, because he was on our team and he taught us, don't destroy the crime scene, right? Stay out of the crime scene. He wasn't with us, so we had to back off and then call him up there. And he came up, took pictures, got the DNA, and the DNA turned out to be mostly, the mom's side was mostly human. The dad's side was totally unknown. And that goes with the Bible. The Nephilim, the offspring of the fallen angels, their mom is human and their dad is unknown, fallen angel. But going back to the expert again, he did not believe in Bigfoot at all. He kind of believed in aliens, and he was a lot into ghost hauntings. So he was more on that side of our team, not really in the Bigfoot side, right? Well, he comes and collects everything. Then he calls us up a couple days later and wants to meet with us. and tells us that he got the DNA, tells us what the DNA, you know, female and all that. But then he's going over the pictures of what he took on the window, and the lips were like 9 inches wide, and it had the little lines in the lips. Okay. The nose was almost 4 or 6 inches, something like that. I can't remember. And he said he tried to match it to up there. They have what they call range cattle, and they let cattle run all summer long and stuff. So he tried to match it with every animal. He tried to match it with cows, bears, cougars, you know, everything. The only thing that he could match it with was gorillas, a gorilla. And then the nose wasn't the same as a gorilla. The nose is more like our nose, but the shape and everything of the face, where it smeared its face on the window, was a gorilla. So we're sitting there, and later on, I'm talking to him, and he tells me he puts people in prison with evidence. Using evidence, he could put somebody in prison for life, right? And he has collected evidence over the years to put people in jail. He said, I believe in Bigfoot now. I haven't seen a Bigfoot. I never heard of Bigfoot. But I have enough, you have enough evidence in your tracks that you bring, you know, that we cast. And that evidence that I collected with the pictures and everything, he said, you didn't know to put little lines in the lips if you're going to fake it. He said, I believe in Bigfoot because you have enough evidence to put Bigfoot in jail. Like, there's a Bigfoot. There's enough evidence to prove Bigfoot right there.
To convict. Yes. If the lips don't fit, you must have quit.
That's right. That's right.
Oh my gosh. That's wild. You know, I actually just met a fella named David. David, I think his last name is Zigdam, but I can't remember. Something like that. And it was at the East Tennessee Squatch Out. East Tennessee, that I went to a few months ago. And David is, he has a YouTube channel called Bigfoot, Forensic Bigfoot, or Bigfoot Forensics, I think. And so he's actually a detective out of North Atlanta. And he does the same thing. He does fingerprints. And he does fingerprinting, and he goes to trial and helps get people convicted or get them off by, you know, examining the fingerprints and stuff forensically.
Yeah, evidence. They live and die by evidence.
Exactly. So he was out there with me, and it was so funny because every now and then he would be like, "Hey, psst, Jessica, come with me. I just found this structure in the woods. I don't want," he's like, I just want your opinion on this. Could this be Bigfoot? You know, because he's really just getting into the Bigfoot phenomenon. And he's actually said that if anyone that I know, anyone that we know as a team has any kind of handprints, fingerprints, anything like footprints, send those to him, and he will do an analysis of it, like the same analysis he does of forensic fingerprints in crimes that are committed. And he'll do it, print out a report on it and everything, and send it to us. And he'll do it for free, is what he told me.
Wow, that would be cool. Like our buddy Mickey, the crime scene investigator, he's retired now, but he would say, like, you could take pictures of it, and if you take really good pictures, he can actually look at the fingerprints and everything and bring all that out through pictures. Even he doesn't have to see it like right there, because you could see all the dermal ridges and everything, the scars, everything on it through a picture too. He'll just change it from like X-ray look or whatever, change the lighting and everything, and he'll bring everything out on the camera or the picture that you take. So that's interesting. What you point out right there. I'd like to meet that guy. Really, he sounds interesting.
Well, listen, he's a great resource to have, and not everything is Bigfoot to him too. You know, he's he's just like with us. It's like not everything's Bigfoot, but could be. And I find that really interesting about this. I guess it was a slobber samples, like the saliva that your friend.
Snot.
It was snot. It was snot. That's right. It was snot. It really coincides with Dr. Melba Ketchum's study, where she they did the DNA sampling, and it came back female for the maternal side and something other for the father side.
Right.
Maternal side.
And that goes with the Bible. That's something I hadn't heard from anybody else, but something, because I research everything. I research the Bible, I research history, bloodlines going back, like the all that. And that was one of the first things that stuck out to me when they first told me, was like the mother was the blood in it was mostly human, and then the rest of it was totally unknown. And I was reading an extra biblical book about the fallen angels, where they would take any women, they would come and take women to have babies with. And I just read, I think, Gilgamesh or something like that, where there's this big hairy giant dude running around, and they're all fallen angels, like not fallen angels, but they're the offspring of angels and women. And that was like a couple of days before that information came out. I had just read that, so it immediately was like, what? That is that what they are? I want to know more now about that, about their DNA and stuff. I want to know more because of the coincidence, I guess, if you call it. I don't believe in coincidences, but that it's the same. The mom is human and the dad is unknown. Like, hey.
Yeah. Have you ever heard about any kind of connection? I mean, we mentioned the government. That's, people are like, stay away from that topic. Well, I don't. I talk about it. And
it's
a
lot of our problems.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so I'm kind of careful about how I say this, because I don't think it's always like government connections. It could be some sort of agency that has nothing to do with our government, but it probably does. Okay. Do you think that they are knowledgeable, like they have knowledge of these Bigfoots, and like how deep does this rabbit hole go with the government or agency, some sort of potential connection to them and Bigfoot and other cryptids?
Well, just for instance, whoops, I mean to bump my thing. Just for instance, this is before I believed in Bigfoot. It was about whenever Mount St. Helens blew up, I lived in Oregon. When Mount St. Helens blew up, I lived in Oregon, and our town got covered with ash from the volcano. But that was like 80 or 81, I can't remember. But I saw Bigfoot in 1987, right? So this is before I saw Bigfoot, and I used to make fun of people just like everybody else. If you talked about Bigfoot, you're a wackadoodle, right? So I would make fun of you. Well, we lived in this apartment complex, and one of the guys that lived in the apartments was a hot shot. That means that when there was fires, they would drop him by helicopter back into the fire to fight the fire. And he was called a hot shot. That was his job. Well, when the volcano went off, they called up all the hot shots to go search and rescue. So he got called up. We were at a bar. We were having a barbecue, and he told me, I gotta go over and to the volcano, search and rescue. They're calling me up. The government, okay, military and federal government's calling him up. So, because he worked for the forestry, like a federal thing. So it was like, I don't know, he was gone a month or two or something like that. And he got back, and we were having a barbecue again, and we're out there and having a beer. And so what'd you guys find? We started talking about what did he see and what was going on, and how, that was a really bad volcano. It freaking killed a lot of people and wiped out hundreds of miles, right? I mean, it was really something. We were 200 and something miles away, and our town it was like snow. The ash was like snow, went 3 or 4 inches deep, wiped out people's cars, got in everybody's air filters and everything. Well, he says, hey man, he goes, like, he thought I was going to make fun of him. He was right. But he said, when he got there, he pulled up to where he was supposed to report to. There's a military helicopter off to where he added some tents where he was supposed to report, and the engine was spooling up, and he's at a guard shack, and they won't let him go report yet. They're telling him stay right here until the helicopter takes off. And he said now the helicopter started taking off, and it took off, and it had a big old cargo net under it. And as it took off, it went over him like 8 feet above his head, this cargo net. As it lifted off, went right over him. He said it had hairy beings in there with big hands and feet hanging out of the cargo net. He said there was a bunch of them, like big, huge cargo net. And you were like, dude, pull our leg, you know. And he shut up after they got mad and wouldn't talk. But after I saw one, I feel bad that I did that to him, because I think he really did tell me that he saw it. So that said, I think the powers that be, they know way more than we do. In fact, Jet Propulsion Laboratory, I was just talking about this earlier, JPL, Jet Propulsion, there was a guy that they were trying to open a portal, and his name was Jack Parsons, and it was his laboratory. And a lot of people say that JPL means Jack Parsons Laboratory, not Jet Propulsion Laboratory, right? But they actually did open a portal. And from what I've researched, the person that opened the portal, they have to be the one that closes the portal. But then he got blown up in a lab before the portal could be closed. They opened the portal right before the crash in 1947 in Roswell. Right after they opened the portal, all the UFO stuff started happening, all the flap of the UFOs. They started seeing them everywhere. Barney and Betty Hill got abducted. And then ever since, there's been aliens. There's, what's his name? The alien that came down, Valiant Thor. There was Adamski. I could go on and on about it, but I think they opened something. Then I think they know a whole lot more than we know, but we're starting to know. We're starting to know. And I actually believe right now that we are on the cusp of all the truth coming out. I actually believe that. I believe we are seeing the tide turn where this nefarious thing is it lost its power. If you do some research, this is so interesting to me about dragons, right? The year of the dragon. We are in the year of the dragon right now. Now there's a white dragon and a red dragon. Every 500 years, there's a battle between the dragons. When the white dragon is in power, good reigns the land or rules the land. When the red dragon is in power, evil rules the land. Okay, so we're in the year of the dragon right now, at the end of the year of the dragon. And I believe they had the battle at the end of this 500-year thing. And I believe the white dragon is now in control. And you can go back, all the people listening, you could go look this up, right? You could check me or whatever you call it.
Fact check.
And in history, you can read about when the white dragon and the red dragon, when they took power and when they fought and all that. I mean, during Merlin's time, the white dragon and the red dragon fought, okay? I think the white dragon took over. And I believe that good is coming now for 500 years, if we even go that far. Because I actually believe biblically we're out of time right now. We're out of time. There's no time left. We don't have any time. Jesus about to step back in the scene. We're at the end of the book, right? We're at the end of the book. I think that's where we are. And I'll leave it right there, but that's a lot for people to go chew on and go check on, right?
Gosh, I love that. I absolutely love that you brought up dragons, actually, and I was not expecting that, and so I also was not expecting to see Texas front porch over here tonight. What's up, Tex?
Hey,
Tex, you're
Tex.
rocking it. I know, I love it. Thank you for being here, Tex. That's amazing, and yeah, we're having a good time tonight. What better way
This
to
is
spend your
really
Saturday?
fun. I'm enjoying myself, you know.
Thank you. Well, you're going to have to come back and hang out with me again because we're having some good conversations
Yeah.
here. And
We'll be
also
really good friends. I have a feeling like we'll
we're
be out there sitting camping and checking things out. Yeah.
we're like best of friends already. Okay,
Yeah.
I can already
Good.
tell. And Tim, thank you so much. Jessica likes blood orange beer. Thank you for exposing me, Tim. Yes, I love blood orange beer. I never get it. Okay, we had one in where was that? Virginia City. Okay, out in near
Ooh,
Reno, Nevada, actually.
that's a fun place.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, we
close
were,
by me. I go there a lot too.
dude,
Talk about,
it's haunted.
yeah, that's like ghost town stuff. Yeah.
It was Wild West, man. I'm all about the Wild West. I'm also all about dragons. And so thank you for that super sticker, Tim. You're the best. Tim Mothman,
Cool.
everybody.
Not very many people I talk to know anything about dragons.
Okay.
They're
Well,
all over the world,
I've
right?
seen one.
You've seen one.
I've stepped on one, actually.
What? Wow.
Yeah. I'll take you there one day if you want to go.
Okay.
Okay, come to Alabama. All right. I went on so I went on a dogman hunt. And I was doing we had a dogman investigation actually at out in Alabama, undisclosed location. And my team from Tennessee came down. And so there were like just five of us. Okay, five of us. And we hiked about 5 miles into a deep forest. And we set up camp. We did I was a dogman burrito. I had slept in my hammock while we were out there, but we backpacked
You're
camped.
braver than me. I could
It was
barely
fun.
sleep in an RV.
No, it was cool. It was fun, and that's what I do. And so we got out there, and when we were unloading our gear, when we got there, this man came walking out of a trail, and he was holding a big old rock, and I heard him talking to the guys, and he was like, "Do y'all know about dragons?" And they're like, "Yeah, we know. We've heard of dragons, but they weren't paying them any mind, really." And I was like, "Hey, I know about dragons. Come over here. What you got?" And he had this stone, and he said, "Well, this is part of a dragon's wing." He said, "I've been coming out here for a long time, and my wife will walk these trails out here. And while she's out here walking, I clean off the dragon." And he had a brush in his hand, like a brush, like he looked like an archaeologist or something. And so he had this brush. I have a picture of these this part of a wing. He said, "Well, this is part of the wing." And he said, "I took it." And he said, "Are you familiar with Mud Fossil University?" And
I am a little bit about that.
Yeah, I am too. And I told him, yeah. And he said, "Well, I'd like to get this, tested to find out like what this is, what the composition is." He said, you guys are going to pass over this dragon. I've been coming here for a long time. I clean it off every time I come out here, and the trail goes right over its wing. You're going to step on it." And so he ended up walking out there and meeting us to show us where this dragon was. And sure enough, it was a full dragon. It looked like a full dragon, and its body made up the entire hill.
Well, you live in a dragon. Did you know that? Like if you look on Google Earth, there's a dragon where its head is wrapped around down by South Carolina and stuff like that. And its tail ends up by Nova Scotia. And it's huge. There's one by Africa too. On the top part of Africa, there's a dragon. But there's people, they think I'm whack, but dragons are all over. China is famous for dragons. They have dragon stories. Japan has dragon stories. Back in England, the king was called the dragon slayer, right? He slayed the Knights of the Round Table. They were known for slaying dragons. In the South America and Mexico, all Kublai Khan or whatever his name is, he was a serpent, a flying serpent dragon, right? They're all over is dragons everywhere. They're all over. And then today we're talking about reptilians, right? all over the place, like in under Los Angeles, California. Back in 2010, I went down the rabbit hole on Reptilian City underneath Los Angeles.
I've covered it. Yep.
Have you?
The lizard,
Oh,
the,
wow.
ancient, the ancient lizard people city under Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Well, I mean, that's all related to the dragons. Everything reptilian. Over in India, they have the 7-headed snake. And all these reptilians over there, right? The same, it's all related all around the world. Before the flood, these things were being worshipped. They were the gods. That's what they were. And now they're under the ground and they're not good, from what I understand.
No, lots of sightings of lizard men too these days, and Caleb says the U.S. military uses dragon skin as armor.
I heard that too. I heard that actually from a military person. It's one of the cool things about getting known.
Yeah.
I don't say famous, but just known, right? People come out and some people, they're just crazy. Okay, they're like me. They're just crazy. But then some people, they really know, and they're in the know, like the giant killer, right? The Kandahar giant killer. I get to meet so many different people, and some of them I have to really dig to figure out if they're telling me the truth or not. Because sometimes they're not, but sometimes it's true. Yeah.
Well, Caleb, you're in the chat, is the real deal, and he's military.
I believe it, because I've heard that before. I've heard that before. Yeah, and I heard it's like impervious, like kind of like they can't even shoot through it.
Right. You know? Caleb says, "Let's go underground."
Let's go.
What is it called? The Shinkana, I think, is what that's called. Caleb's actually done a lifetime of service with the military, and used. He says that he actually used the arcana or some form of magic with the military and stuff too. So
I'm sure of that.
It's a deep rabbit hole, very deep rabbit hole.
Like some people that I know, a lot of people, they've never heard it, but Dr. Michael Salla, I just listened to that guy. A lot of it might be hooey, but a lot of it isn't hooey. You know what I mean? And like I used to talk with I can't remember her name, but she did the Project Camelot. But Carrie Cassidy. We interviewed her way back when and got to know her and was talking to her and her partner, and they're all into that kind of stuff, the dumbs. And so I mean, like that's the one cool thing about getting known is you get to, like, I get to meet Jessica, right? I mean, like you have to, if you're a nobody, you don't get to meet anybody, but only I got to be knowing a little bit, and I get to meet all these cool people that think like me and get to do things like me, you know.
We're on the same frequency. You know what? Your vibe attracts your tribe. Okay.
It's so cool.
That's why we're all here. That's why we have a big old chat tonight. And I mean, people I haven't seen in forever up in here tonight, just hanging out and stuff. So I am so excited to see everybody. All my old friends are in here, and my new friends.
I've been watching the chat is just going, like I look over every once in a while, it's just zooming by. You know, I don't even know if I could keep up with it.
Oh,
it's crazy.
We have well over 300 people watching right now, which is amazing.
Really?
The biggest show. Yeah.
That's cool.
This is awesome. It's a lot of fun over here. But yeah, I mean, there's just so much stuff that's been hidden from us for so long.
Yeah.
And I do hope that this is the year of disclosure. And I always say that we are the disclosure. Okay.
We are.
We can't depend on like our government to come out and like walk out a Bigfoot on stage, or like a Dogman or night crawlers or lizard people or anything. We kind of, you know, I never meant to go public. Okay, ever. And
me either, except for to warn everybody that Bigfoots were dangerous. That's all that's what I started out doing, that's how I started. And I didn't care if everybody laughed at me and joked at me. I would just tell them, you know what? Go camping. One day this thing's going to step out or it's going to throw a rock at you, and you're going to know I'm not a whack person, that I'm not crazy.
Well, what's happening right now, the congressional hearing on UFOs, and they talked about how UFOs are real. They're coming out of the ocean and they have alien bodies and things. I mean, I've been knowing about crash retrievals for a long time. I know those are real. I've been knowing about, I've seen my own ETs, but now it's like, but you know, having all these, you know, encounters with extraterrestrials, what I think they're extraterrestrials, I don't even know what those are anymore, because there's so much mind control that's a part of all of this, and the screen memories. And like you said, that the woman who thought she was beating up an alien, it turned into her nephew.
Right.
Okay. It's just, we live in such a strange world. It's so crazy. And
it's
so
really crazy right now.
It's only going to get crazier.
It is only, I like, my theory is right now, from reading ancient texts and research and delving into all the different places that we've talked about tonight, and dying, right? Dying and then coming back, and coming from that perspective, that a lot of the things people say the Bible was, I believe the same thing back then too, that it was fake, or man wrote it, did stuff to it. They have, but they didn't. All they did was take out words and take out chapters and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. We're at the end. There's no more time. Like, okay, just say that Jesus was they say that they never found his body, right? He's only person in history there's no body, okay? And supposedly he died in AD 30, 31, 32, 33, somewhere in there. And there's 7 1,000-year days. Adam started it on day 1 of the first 1,000 years. Jesus came on the earth at the end of the 4th day, or the 4,000 years. If you add 2,000 to that, you come to 2033. We are at the end of the 6th 1,000 years by less than a decade. The last 1,000 years in that story is the one where Jesus returns and rules and reigns with the people for 1,000 years on the earth, right? They call it the millennial reign. If you go by that story line, we're right at the cusp of the start of the 1,000 year, the last 1,000 years. We don't have any more time. None. In this story, it said how you know that you're at the end, when this other 1,000 years is supposed to start and Jesus is coming. Israel will become a nation. It will be a country again. That happened in 1948. Guess what? That was right after JPL laboratories and all that, and all the UFOs. That all happened all at the same time. It also says, in these days will be like the days of Noah, where the Nephilim and the fallen angels and the giants will be ruling and running around the land, right? It'll be like a daily thing. Playing with DNA. I mean, like, they could talk about our time and it's almost the same. So, like, my theory is that's where we are. We're at that last few years before that 1,000 years reign starts with Christ. Mm-hmm. And the only reason I know he's real for sure is because I died and I lived over there, right? Otherwise, I would be like everybody else and say, that's just a really good story. It really is, until you're dead and you're standing in front of him, right? Then it's like having a Bigfoot moment. And that's how I talk about it. when I saw Bigfoot, that changed my life. I did not go in the mountains camping. I did not fall asleep under a tree. I can't even sleep in a 3-man sack lunch anymore, right? I could barely sleep in an RV because I know they're right there and what they can do. That's how I am about dying.
And I'm out there sleeping in a hammock in the middle of
like I couldn't do
territory.
that. I couldn't do it. I could barely sleep in a trailer, you know, a tow trailer. But I think that's where we are, only from that perspective, though. And I respect everybody's opinion, and I'm not going to argue with them or anything. I just ask they respect mine too, and maybe look into what I'm saying, you know, because I've looked into what they're saying. Believe me, we talked about it all night so far.
Yeah, I respect that. I so respect that. And David Pardue, actually, my friend that's on my teammate and fellow researcher, says I've been saying it for years. We're in the end days, and a lot of people believe that. It does feel like we are living in a new, you know, chapter of revelations every day. Okay.
like on my channel, because I'm shadow banned so bad on my YouTube channel, that's all I've been talking about, because we're so close to the end. I don't think we're all ready. There is so much distraction right now with drones and aliens and what the government's doing, what this government's doing. And oh my God, Russia might blow us up. You know, like, I mean, there's so much distraction that we're not looking for what's really happening, right? We're not looking, and we need to so bad.
We're so distracted, and everybody's on their phones and stuff too, not really paying attention. I don't know. It just seems like, and I want to say there's like an uptick in things like Bigfoot sightings and Dogman sightings, but Vic Hundiff and I were talking about that on Wednesday with Dogman encounters, and he said, well, I haven't really seen an uptick in Dogman encounters and reports, because I've been getting them pretty, you know, steadily for the past, you know, I don't know, 15, 20 years or something. I don't know how long he's been doing this, but for a long time, and almost 20 years actually. And,
well, for me, on the Bigfoot thing, I used to drive 3 hours to go to where the Bigfoots were, where I knew they were. I would drive 3 hours. In the last 8 years, I only have to go 10 minutes now. They're all over the place in the oranges. They didn't used to be there. Dogman was there, pterodactyl was there, ghosts were there, but Bigfoot wasn't there. And now he's everywhere around here, all over, up and down every waterway. It's crazy. I have a little short video on my YouTube where me and Adolf were out there, and we found a family's tracks in the river. This is like January. It's freezing cold. And here's all these barefoot tracks running in and out of the river, big ones, little ones. And they were there just before we were there, because all the dirt was the sand was all wet and everything. And yeah, this stuff never got reported down here. Good, I don't know, dozen years ago, there wasn't that much at all. Some, but not much. Now, we just got reports just down the road from me they're going the wrong way, away from the mountains, even further into the valley, of Bigfoot's running across the road and almost causing accidents over here, which that I never heard that before. Right now, I've heard 3 stories just in the last 2 years of that. Just interesting, right? Interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And Adolf of all, I mean, I've had a lot of people on my shows. I know you've interviewed a lot of people over the span of you doing this as well. And Adolf has one of the most interesting stories. Okay, with happened on 10/11/02. And he said, that's why I can't go camping, as to what happened to us. It changed my life completely. And I did notice that when you sent me the write-up about, you know, like a little bio, you put one sentence at the very end, and it was apart from the other, you know, paragraph you wrote. And he wrote, Bigfoot changed his life forever. Bigfoot changed your life forever.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people who have experiences with creatures that aren't supposed to exist say. Once you see something that's not supposed to exist in this world, it changes your life completely forever. And it changes your consciousness, your view of the world. Yeah. It gives a lot of people PTSD, actually. A lot of, you know, it's almost like our shows that we do are kind of like a group. What do you call it? It's like a group
Group
therapy.
yeah. Yeah, it helps, huh, when they talk about it. I found that with alien abduction people, where they're the kids, the mom, the dad, everybody's getting abducted. When they finally can talk about it and somebody actually believes them, it's almost like a relief to them. Like, we had this one family where they were all getting abducted, and we used the Jesus name to actually stop the abductions, believe it or not. But before they would even do that, they moved. From where they were living, they decided they were going to move, 20 miles away. But we stayed with them on it, and then they got to a new home, and they called and they wanted to talk about the last abduction before they moved again, but they had used Jesus' name, and they all as a family got abducted, and they all were allowed to remember, but the little boy took some kind of a wand or a tool out of the ship and hid it. And they came back the next night, and they wanted it. They didn't know who took it, but they knew that they were the only ones on the ship that could have took it, right? So they're after him, and they started saying they were going to harm the mom, and they were holding the mom where she couldn't even move. She was just frozen. Only her eyes could move. And they scared everybody in the family, but the little boy, he did it, and he ran in his bedroom, and he came back with it. And then they got their tool and they left, right? Like that is crazy. But that's when they started asking me about Jesus then. After that one, and now when I was talking about she was frozen, all she could move was her eyes. We got a Bigfoot report only like 5 miles from where I am. His name, we call him Bigfoot Joe now. But the Bigfoots were messing with him at his farm, and there is citrus, oranges, and tangerines all around his farm, okay? And that's where they were coming out of those, and they were messing with him, slapping his house. Well, one day they froze his dog. They were sitting around a campfire, and his dog fell over like a dead cockroach with its legs up, and all it could do is move its eyes. And the Bigfoot were freezing the dog, and that is where he got upset. That's where his, like, that was it, right?
That was a line in the sand right there. You don't miss them.
That was it, yeah. And that's when he came for help, and they had done that to him several times. But when they picked on his dog, that was it, right? And so, like, they could do that too. The Bigfoots can freeze you. The aliens can freeze you. When you talk to people and they say there's a Bigfoot or an alien and they can't move, they can't run, they can't talk, right? It's this weird thing, I don't know what it is, but yeah, the aliens, they do that, and Jesus' name can make it stop. If you're frozen like that, all you have to do is think Jesus, and they will let go of you. Just think Jesus and they'll let go. It's amazing, but only I've had, I don't know, 60 people now that I've helped with Bigfoots and aliens on that kind of thing, where all they have to do is think it.
Wow, that is great advice, and I hear that a lot. And there's even that video of the drone bonanza that's going on right now, with everybody seeing all these drones and orbs. I was given some. I'm trained extensively in remote viewing, the type that our military uses. So I do a show every Thursday night where I discuss some blind remote viewing targets I've been given, and some of those recently were the drones, okay, that were being seen. And then last Thursday, I had some of the orbs, and one of those included was that orb that there's a woman that was actually talking to it and invoked the name of Jesus as she was talking to it, and it did respond to her. And that was one of my remote viewing targets, were some of those orbs. And I just thought that was interesting. And someone contacted me, a good friend of mine who has some good inside information, wanted me to be sure to discuss that on my show. He was like, be sure that you talk about this. He's like, make sure that you you mentioned that they do respond to interaction with humans. Okay. And I thought that was important that we did discuss that and point that out. Because there is some sort of an intelligence to some of these things that are floating around out there in our skies.
That's
But that
amazing. Yeah. I'd like to
Mhm.
learn more about that remote viewing. I have a couple of friends that do that, and I don't understand how it works or anything. I always wanted to try it, though. I'm not sure if
Yeah,
I would be any good at it.
I bet
You
you'd
know
be
what?
some.
On the UFOs responding, one of the things that I tell everyone, I've talked to so many people that have been abducted, and a lot of times the abduction starts with flashing a flashlight or a laser at the ship. Don't ever do that. Never, ever. If you see something, do not flash a flashlight or a laser at it. You're almost guaranteeing that something's going to happen to you, right? You're almost
Oh, yeah.
guaranteeing it. And it may happen and they will wipe your memory and you won't even know it happened, right? You'll lose time or something. Like Adolf, that's happened. That's what Adolf did for 10/11/02. They flashed it with a light and then
Oh,
they got abducted.
okay.
Yeah. Oh man.
Okay.
Don't ever flash a light.
I was debating as to whether I wanted to bring this up, but I'll go
Okay.
ahead and bring it up now. Gosh, you and I could probably be here for like hours tonight talking about
Yeah,
this stuff.
probably.
So
Yeah.
we'll kind of we won't be here all night, I promise. But I did want to bring this up. So I got contacted about, I'm going to say about 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, by one of my teammates. Okay, one of my my original Bigfoot team. He had some friends up in North Georgia, and I'm not gonna. I was asked not to disclose this to the
Right.
public and stuff, but I'll talk about it. I can't give names or anything. I don't know their names
No
actually.
details.
No,
Yeah.
no, but I can tell
Personal
you the
details.
gist because it goes with what you just said. This is I think I said precautionary tale. I think it's supposed to be a cautionary tale. The other day I said precautionary tale, and I felt kind of dumb after I said it. Let this be a warning, okay? Because I got a call, I got a message. It was frantic, and it was like, "Hey, this family who I'm friends with, they had they're having their children are being abducted out of their home." And it all started from the mother figured out a way to call in UFOs.
Great.
And I don't know if she was using a laser pointer. I don't know what she was doing, but she
Mm.
was psychically tuning in and she was bringing them in, and it became it was funny to her.
Right.
And so when her friends would come over, she would call in the UFOs and they would show up around her house. Well, she didn't know what she was doing. She just thought it was kind of cool. And it was all fun and games until her kids weren't waking up for school in the mornings. And when she would go to wake them up, they would be disheveled. They went from having straight A's to flunking their classes, and they were always tired, and they were just out of it all the time. And she couldn't figure out what was going on. She didn't put two and two together. And then they started seeing what they thought were ETs looking in their windows at night.
Uh-huh.
And so they set up cameras around their house, and I was sent a bunch of pictures of they're literally ETs peeking in their windows and walking through their yard. And
they need Jesus really bad.
Yes. Well, they were asking me what to do, like I was going to be able to help, and I didn't know.
No, they need Jesus. That
yeah.
I
Well,
tell you, like I went to this one house. We got called where it was abductions and stuff like that, but it also had haunting, like haunting, where things are flying out of the cabinets, and I mean they were having all kinds of stuff, shadow beings, and I went in there, and my buddy Jeffrey, he goes in with holy water and prayed on candles, like Catholic stuff. And I told him that doesn't work, right? We've tried it with other things and it doesn't work. The only thing that I found that works is Jesus' name. So, but only they were bent on putting holy water all over and smudging and all this kind of stuff. It doesn't work. I mean, sometimes it works because they want you to think it works, right? That we're so stupid that we will smudge or we'll do whatever and they'll let it work and then we think it works. But only, like, I've been there, done that, and I thought it worked too, but I found out there was sometimes it didn't work. And that just meant when it didn't work, it meant that they made me think that it worked sometimes. So I would keep doing that and never find out what really worked, right? I had to figure out what really worked.
Yeah.
But there's a legal thing on this, right? There is a legal thing. The person that owns the house or is renting the house, that the one that it's legally, technically their house, they have to, I can pray it, but they have to agree with me, and we come into an agreement and we can kick it out. Well, we kicked it out. Okay. And I told them, I've had people go in agreement with me, and then they break the agreement, and then they start having problems again. They'll call me and say, yeah, I'm having problems. And then I ask them a few questions. I find out they invited it back, right? You can't invite it back. If you want it gone, it's got to be gone, right? You can't invite it back. So this guy, he stayed in agreement with me, though. And we prayed. They did their candles, and they did their holy water and all that other stuff. And nothing happened. And then we prayed, and over our microphones, we could hear the demon screaming as it went out the front door.
No.
You could hear it. Everybody's eyes got all big. 2 weeks later, the guy calls me and he says, hey, remember me? I'm such and such. I'm like, yeah, I remember. He goes, you won't believe this. He goes, I have to tell you this. He said that after the next day after you left, our house smelled like roses all over the house.
Uh-oh.
For days.
Is that good or bad?
It's good. It's good. Okay. It smelled fresh. He told me that the demon was attached to his son. That I discerned that the demon was attached to his son. And I told him I didn't pray specifically for his son. I was praying specifically at the demons that were causing all this trouble. But I told him that it is attached to his son, and that the problem is, if he doesn't, his son's an adult, he was 18, he has legal authority over his body. So if he wants that, he can keep that. But because you prayed with me over your property and your house, he can't stay. If he keeps the demon, he cannot stay. He'll have to leave. Yeah. I don't know this, right? But only that's how technically, legally, that's how it's supposed to go. So he says 2 days later, his son left. He couldn't stay there. He couldn't even be in the house. He had to leave.
Oh my God.
He said his wife and his daughter and everybody, they were always at each other all the time. Like when they get up in the morning, it was like, they're always at each other. He said from that time on, that day, it's so peaceful and calm, and nobody is at each other anymore. I talked to him about a year ago. This has been like 5 years now. And I asked him, how's everything going? He goes, perfect. But where his son is right now with the mom, not so good, right? Not so good. But that is all from Jesus' name. I could go on with story after story after story like that, where that works every single time. And I know a lot of people that are in this field, they don't like hearing that.
I love hearing it. You know what? I love hearing it because we need to know these things. It is a spiritual battle with a lot of the things that we're dealing with out here. It's not a game. No. Okay, it's after experiencing the family that was having the children being abducted from their home, and they did eventually get some good help. They came to me because they know I'm the cryptid girl, and I deal with ETs out in the field sometimes and stuff. And I just told them, once you start dealing with like extraterrestrials, in my experience at that time, I said, well, once you deal with extraterrestrials, you're kind of on your own, because I don't know. I don't know what to do to control them. But now I'm learning that you can invoke the name of Jesus.
Yeah.
And have them go away. Yeah.
And it goes like, for me, I just played with it. At first, I was just playing around, but then I also learned that if you don't believe in Jesus, like you don't accept him as your savior or whatever, this legal technical thing, you can use the name of Jesus and it'll work kind of like smudging. It'll work sometimes. They'll let you believe that you're able to do something with Jesus' name, and then all of a sudden they'll rip the snot out of you, right? It's because you don't really have Jesus. You didn't accept him as your savior. You didn't accept him, and he's not living in you. When you accept him, he lives in you, and you have to have that. They will recognize that. Like when I walk around, this is like a weird thing. You can, and people that know me can attest to this, like Jeffrey Gonzalez. It happened so many times, me and him, because of the places we go and where they call us to this demon place, right? This haunted place or whatever. They like, hey, we're having a problem. Come over here. I've walked up, absolutely just was walking up, and the people would run out of the house and start attacking me. But not physically, but yelling at me, cussing, asking me, what am I doing there? I need to get out of here. What is my authority is what they ask me. That word. What is your authority to be here? And I was thinking they were asking me what church. I don't go to church. I haven't went to church. I don't believe in church. I don't like religion. I like Jesus. That's what I like. I don't like religion. Religion sucks. That's all messed up. So I thought that, and finally I was like, I don't know, when I took out my driver's license, I handed it to her, I'm like, she just spit on it. And she wanted me out. Then she ran back in the house. It was a girlfriend of the guy, and he's like, she's demonically possessed or whatever. So I told him the legal authority, the whole thing. I went over it with him, and we prayed right then. I told him, you got to agree with me. You got to stick with me on it. And we prayed. 2 seconds went by. This lady comes running out of the house, goes and gets in her car, and then burns rubber out of there. And I prayed from property line to property line in Jesus' name. And he agreed with me. 5 days later, he called me back. He's like, hey, can you come and do that again? I'm like, why, you got something else over there? He goes, no, she came back with a sob story, and he let her back in.
Oh, God. It's like a vampire. Don't let him in.
He let her back in. And I told him, you know what, man, this ain't a game. I'm not playing games. Like, you think this is fun and games, but those things are really dangerous. They can latch onto your whole family line and mess with you for decades, right? Eons. They'll haunt your whole family forever. You don't mess with this kind of stuff, right? You get rid of them, and then you stay. And I told him, you know what I prayed. You pray it. You take authority of your stuff in Jesus' name, and you better find Jesus, because if you don't, when it comes back, it's going to rip you a new one, buddy. Like, it'll know if you're a real believer or not, right? It'll know. That's just I don't know why I'm even going down this one. It usually makes everybody mad, but
no, we talk about this pretty often on my channel. Actually, we do talk about this, and when you're covering things like the black-eyed children and vampires and all these weird. I've had a black-eyed man show up at my door in the middle of the night one night. Wow. Okay, so I've dealt with some weird stuff. Okay, really weird stuff. And we were also talking about like the possible government connection to cryptids, and Sovereign Cosmic Wildman has a great point. And this is something I've heard. I don't know for sure this is a fact, but it's alleged. The fact, we'll say the fact, because I'm not sure though, but it says they make underground base workers sign a contract to not say Jesus Christ down there. It tells you everything. And
I've talked to somebody that said the same thing, that they were in the Dulce base and couldn't.
Yes.
And that's from being known, and people get a hold of you and say, hey, you talked about Jesus. They can't even say it like if they smash their finger and they go, Jesus Christ. They can't even say that like that. They can't say the word at all.
You get in trouble. Yeah, Phil Schneider, right? I don't know if it was Phil Schneider that said that, but let's see. Gladys Kravitz Jr. said it was Phil, maybe.
It might have been, it might have been. But then I've also heard that recently In fact, did you guys heard about the Pope getting ready to open up some portals?
The 5 portals. I was going to ask you about
on
that.
Christmas
Yeah,
Eve?
what is that about?
I don't think it's good because
Yeah.
the Catholic Church have been in control for a very long time, and I think they lost control with the dragon fight.
Okay.
They're under the red dragon, so I think they lost control, and I think this is their last ditch effort to do something on the day. I don't believe it's Jesus's birthday, but I believe that's the day that everyone chooses to celebrate his birthday. And I think it's a last ditch effort to keep this last 7-year tribulation thing from happening, or the bad orange man from taking over, or whatever's happening, right? This is their last ditch effort for the end of the year of the dragon. They want to keep control, and I think that's what's going on with that.
I think so too. And you got to throw CERN in there too somewhere with all these
Yes,
portals and stuff they're opening allegedly, and it's just a wild time to
they
be
have
alive.
been for reals. They have been for reals.
Yeah.
Like I've talked to people that I've talked to people that work there, or they belong to universities, and they go there, and they do these dances and these sayings and rituals before they do some of it, right? And they thought it was all fun and games at first when they first started doing it, some of these university professors and students, and now they're finding out that, or they've actually seen things, and all they're doing is opening the portal. Who in the world, what statue do they have out there in front of it? Shiva.
The destroyer.
That is one of the old gods from India. Some of the ones I talked about in the very beginning, with the dragons, the reptilians, the 7-headed snake, right? That's the old gods. We're at the end where all these things are coming back. They're all going to come back. In fact, I believe the alien thing, why it's going nuts right now, is because there's going to be a rapture, and when all the people leave, they have to blame it on something. And the aliens are going to say they did it. They took all these people out, right? Because of pollution or climate change or something. They're going to have I don't know what it is, but they're going to be the blame for it, right?
Man, I'm ready for all of it. I think this is so crazy. Like we're living in some kind of wild. I mean, I guess it could be revelation, right?
It is.
But you know, we did state earlier in the show that there's a lot of good coming. Okay, things are about to be really good, I think, and really nice. We're going through some wild times right now, but I do think that I think it's going to be great in the future.
Well,
I think that's what we're here for.
Some of my insider people that I've talked to for years, where we were teaching about prepping, and how to prepare, how to keep food and batteries, and how to, in case of a disaster, what you're going to do. And I have some government friends, and they've been telling me some things for a long time that it was hard to believe, right? But they were also saying to be prepared. They were mostly saying something's going to happen and we need to be prepared. Well, they've been saying for a long time, and I couldn't see it then, but what they've been saying is snowballing lately, and of what they said is coming true. But they're talking about no IRS. That's going to be our economy, our dollar, all that. That's a thing of the past. It's going to be some kind of quantum financial system or something like that. All this is all going to change, and we're going to go into this golden age thing with med beds. I mean, one of them was just telling me the other night that the med beds are going to roll out on January 1st, right? And I mean, I'm still like on the fence with some of it, like the med bed thing, but so far everything they've told me is pretty much panning out. I hope there's a med bed, but I'm not sure about it. But he's telling me, oh yeah, they're being trained and they're rolling out on January 1st. I'm like, okay, I hope so. I mean, that's where I'm not drawing the line saying it doesn't exist. I'm just saying, let's see it happen. You know, like, I'm not going to say it doesn't exist. My mind is open. I sure hope there is. So far, he's been right. Him and the Colonel, right? That's what, I don't know their name. They just emailed me, you know, and one of them's name is the Colonel. That's all I know him by. And so the Colonel says, no more IRS, a new financial system. Make sure you buy gold and silver and get rid of your dollars. Don't keep anything in the bank right now. He said, clean your bank out. He told me, don't have anything in the bank. But that's all, whatever's in there when it goes down is gone, right? He said, poof. So I'm not sure, but so far everything he said is true. And we're coming in on that to this golden age, supposedly, which lines up with the white dragon and the red dragon and all that. So that I keep my mind open on all this because it lines up with everything. It lines up with the Bible. It lines up with the dragon story. It just lines up with what I'm seeing, right?
Yeah, and if you want to see a real dragon, come down to Alabama. Like I said, I'll take you.
I want to.
We need to hang out, man. This has been too fun. This has been a lot of fun. I want to.
That sounds like real fun. Like, you can see one, go on Google Earth and go out to where you can see the eastern seaboard, and you'll see a dragon, a huge one. Like, I mean, like, it's like the full United States. You can see its head, the whole thing. You can see the whole thing. Its tail is way up in Canada, right? And but its head is way down by where Florida starts. So it's like a huge thing, and it's actually part of the mountain range, the Appalachians and all that. That's part of it.
That's just like the dragon that I saw. It's actually part of the hillside. It is the hill. Yeah. And you would never see it unless you had a bigger picture. If that guy had not already found it. And you could see it. You could see it really well walking when we were coming back up from our excursion in the woods. You could see its tail perfectly in the back of it. It was easier to see it from there. And somebody asked in the chat earlier where they can find pictures of that. I don't have pictures posted. I showed all the pictures of it on a show that I did a while back, but I'll put those pictures up on my website. Try to get it up there tomorrow.
I'm sure if you go on Google Earth, if you know where to look, you can zoom in enough to see it. Probably
you could. It was 100% covered up by the trees and stuff. So it had a lot of tree cover over it, so it would have been difficult to see it.
That's so interesting. Yeah. Like, I want to go walk on it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be zooming in for Bigfoot because I feel like wherever those things are, that kind of stuff, so is all the other stuff. Yes. Right? It's like a zone. They like our, what do you call it? The triangle that I live in, right? The Nevada Triangle.
Yeah.
Everything's over here, and it has a lot of stuff like that around here too. Like Adolf and Javier, we go up and we find Indian old petroglyphs where they painted on the rocks. We go find that stuff. We don't know what it means, and nobody knows what it really means, but it's interesting to find that stuff, right? All over the place. But where that stuff is, so is the weirdness, you know?
The high strangeness. Yeah, the high strangeness. And re-indigenizing mine says the Appalachian Mountains are also a huge serpent.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah, I found that all by myself. And then the mud fossil thing, they pointed that out on the Mud Fossil University. I was like, whoa, I was right. It looked like a dragon. It is. Then it pointed out the one in Africa, but they're really all over the place.
Yeah. They are. They're everywhere. And oh my gosh, we're about to hit a 3-hour mark. So let's go ahead and I would love to have you back on the show.
Oh, I'll come back anytime.
Yes.
Anytime.
Let's do it. Let's do this again soon. I know I've got I know all my people on the East Coast are falling like flies. Everybody's tired. It's already 1 a.m. over here. So you guys, thank you so much for being here. Can you tell, and look, Javier's still in here too. Okay, we're going to do a field trip to go see the dragon. Okay, with some of my research friends. Anytime you guys want to come down here to the south, southeastern United States, y'all come down and we'll take
the golden age. Maybe we'll make it down there, right?
Yes.
We'll all have some money.
Yeah, I hope so. Shoot, we're manifesting over
From
here.
what I hear, so you know, from what I hear, we'll
Oh my
see.
gosh. Well, okay, tell everybody where they can find you. You have a great YouTube channel, and you're doing knives, you're tooling leather, you're doing all sorts of
Yeah,
cool stuff. Tell the
yeah.
audience.
I've been tooling leather ever since I was 8 years old.
It's
But
beautiful.
I'm at. You can find me at Squatch Zone on YouTube, and in fact, it's my name. I think if I put hi, that's my YouTube channel right there, Squatch Zone. That's how you can find me. You can find me on Facebook. I had a card where you with the little weird little square with all the stuff in it that you could
Yes.
take a picture of it and it would send you to my
Oh, yeah.
Facebook, but I don't
The
have one
QR
on
code.
me. Yeah,
Yeah.
QR code, yeah. But if you go to Squatch Zone, I'll share all that information. You know, you could go to my Facebook, and I'm about to switch to Rumble because Facebook is messing with me so hardcore on the like I was making around 800 a month on there for the
Yeah.
longest time. Now I make $2 a month, right?
Oh, no.
Like I'll get views up to like 500, and then all of a sudden it flatlines. You know that they don't let me get anything. They don't tell people when I'm on. It's ridiculous. You know? But
It's a struggle a lot of us are experiencing, you know.
it used to be golden back in 2012 and 13, 14, 15. You know, it actually is a good side thing, but not anymore. Unless you lie or you don't talk about anything that is against their code or whatever they rules, you know, and then they'll promote you like crazy. Go on there and say that, you know, a lie, and then they'll just promote the heck out of you. You
know? Or just be real dramatic and stir up a bunch of drama. That's how a lot of people get views. But I'm just saying that's just not me. We don't do the drama over here on my channel and stuff. We just have fun. That's what we like to do.
They get like, I'll be fun, but only I don't candy coat nothing. So sadly, you see what you see is what you get, you know.
Well, I was super excited. I know all of my people, everybody's watching tonight. You guys go subscribe over to Squatch Zone and follow Alan all over social media too, y'all, on Facebook and
I sure appreciate that.
For sure, man. You're awesome, and you've got so much experience under your belt, and man, I just really enjoyed having you here tonight.
I always wanted to get on like the guest speak. Like I was talking to Clip Barackman one night and Bobo, and we're sitting around, and I was talking about like you guys get like invited everywhere and talk, and like I never do. I think we went to we were at a steak house and having steak, and we're sitting around there, you know, talking about who's going to open his museum and all that. And then I see them, they're all over the place, you know, guest speaking and talking about stuff. And I think, man, I want to do that. I would like to do that. I have nothing but time, and I would like to share like that. But I don't know if I want to be that kind of known, you know, like where you can't go anywhere. It almost is bad enough where I can't go in an airport sometimes, or I get noticed in restaurants. And I'm kind of not into that too much. But as long as the people are cool, it's cool. But if I start getting the wackadoodle ones, like some people will say, hey, take a picture with me. And then there's people around there, they don't even know who I am. Like, that's how I like it. But they all want pictures too, because that person wanted a picture. They're like, maybe we should take a picture too. You know, and then I stand there for 30 minutes taking pictures of people that I don't even know. They don't even know me, right, at all. And I know that, right? They have no idea why they're taking their picture with me. You know, it's weird.
You're Bigfoot royalty. Like I said, you're an OG in the Bigfoot community. And
that's kind of cool. Maybe I'm going to name my leather that OG leather or something. I've been trying to figure out a name for my leather so I could put a mark on it. I don't know. I was going to do Squatch, but everybody's squatching nowadays. Like I was telling, me and Boba were talking about that. Like he's came up with Squatch. That's a Bobo thing. I came up with Forest Ninja, and mine's nothing. His is like all over Squatch everything, you know.
Well, you know what? I actually really like Forest Ninja more than anything. That is so original and so amazing. And somebody in the chat earlier tonight was like, this was you coined the term. I love it. I was actually thinking, like, after all my shows, I do like a funny art or, do some funny art that kind of represents whatever we talked about. And I was thinking, how am I going to make Sasquatch into ninjas for my after show art tonight?
You know what I want? If you could do that, I would pay you. I've tried and tried over the years to get somebody to draw me a Bigfoot ninja. Like I always like envision it like a Ninja Turtle, but only a Bigfoot, like a silhouette of a Bigfoot with no details or anything, but with the little thing blowing in the wind off of his head, like the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Something like that. And they're all buff, like, because that's how they really are. And they really are ninjas too. Oh boy.
Oh,
if they ever meet one, they'll know.
Oh yeah. They're quiet and deadly.
Yeah.
Quiet and deadly. Silent and deadly.
Yeah. SBD.
Oh my gosh. Well, oh my gosh. I am so excited that you were here tonight, and please come back and see us. And you guys, thank you so much for everybody who was in the chat tonight, and everybody who's watching live, and everybody who's listening on podcast platforms in the future. Thank you all so much for all the support and all the love we had. I have so many.
That was so wonderful.
It was great.
Cool.
We had such wonderful questions. I didn't get to everybody's questions tonight, but you guys come back and see us again in the future. We've got another show lined up for Monday. Actually, David Pardue, who's in the chat tonight, will be our guest on Monday. And we do have that video of the little person. It's probably an ET. We don't know, that we're going to be showing on Monday. So y'all come and see us for that. And I want to thank everybody for all the super stickers tonight. Thank y'all so much. And for all the support. It means the world to me. Okay. And yeah, please go to Squatch Zone. You guys subscribe on YouTube and on Facebook, and support the OG Alan Thomas, y'all.
Thank you so much. It was so fun. I can't wait for the next time. I knew it was going to be fun though.
Oh yeah, it was fun. This is the longest show. This is the record longest show I've ever done. 3 hours is the record. Okay, so far.
Mine's 5, but
5. Okay,
yeah.
Three for me here on my channel. So
I even went I left the guests and went to Walmart, and I think I was gone like an hour, and then I came back and they were still going, and I was running this. I had it all, I was doing the show, and everybody's still going. I was like, oh my God, you guys. I did a whole nother hour with them. It was crazy.
Oh my gosh. Well, it was awesome. And I know you guys are tired. I know everybody on the East Coast is, but thank y'all for sticking with us all night.
Thank you guys.
So great. Y'all have a wonderful night. Everybody, please stay safe out there. Keep your head on a swivel. And I hope everybody has a wonderful Christmas. If we don't get to see you guys again before Christmas, I will be back on Monday, but everybody have a wonderful holiday if you don't make it back on Monday. Okay. All right, Alan, have a great night. I will see you guys.
Good night, everybody. Good night, Jessica.
Good night. We will. Oh, do you have any final thoughts before we go? Anything you want to say? Any more final thoughts?
Yeah, I do. Everybody, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I'm going to pray for everybody off camera, though. But I'm going to pray for every one of you, and I'll tell you what it is. Abundant blessings in every area of your life. Healings in your finances, in your relationships, in your job, in your life. Abundant blessings. And I guess that's the prayer in Jesus' name.
Amen. Oh my gosh. Thank you. We can all use that. And it's wonderful and so thoughtful of you, Alan. Thank you so much. And you guys have a wonderful night. And we will see you back here on Monday. All right, everybody. Stay safe.
Bye.
Bye.